BIC podcast number 117. StreamYard changed his countdown music and we didn't even know. I didn't realize that was a thing. Unfortunately, you won't be able to hear it, but it was very tranquil, I assure you. It was incredible. It was sensational. It was inspirational is what it was. But that's not what we're going to talk about. Yes, Brandon.
I was going to ask, did you like try to get us into
that's the same countdown button that I have always pushed. StreamYard changed that. That's actually their built-in one. That has nothing to do with me. All I'm saying is they changed it, and apparently it's more tranquil than ever before. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to hear it because it's not included as part of the
I
recording.
almost went to sleep.
It's about the same. It would be about the same. Either way, we're going to talk a little bit about the infamous, the latest WhatNot mini controversy. Not going to spend a lot of time on that. We will touch on it though. There is also one thing that I want to take off of it that I think will actually be an interesting conversation that we'll go into it. And I did make a video about the WhatNot thing earlier today, so I'll touch on that. But then I want to go from there and I want to talk about something else that has come up in a couple of videos. We'll talk about the possible redundancy of some topics, the irony of talking about the redundancy of topics as a topic, but we'll get into that. And then also at the same time, we'll touch on the Alexander Ovechkin's current run and kind of basically he's creeping closer towards, a record, but he's also putting up some other numbers that are kind of interesting as well and the possible impact on that. So we've got a couple of those things we'll talk about. That and more in this episode of the BIC podcast. Under the watchful and gazing eyes of Brett Favre, as always, we are here. So let's start off with the silly card of the week. Thank everybody for their participation. Although you guys did not all follow through to the polls. We need to see those numbers picked up this week. I'll make sure the community post is put up with time, although we did have time on this last one. But let's see. We'll give you the results, and then we'll show some new cards on it. But that is brought to us by AMG Collectibles, amgcollectibles.ca, and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. Steve, the collector of the scalps and the collector of people, has already sent me some of the new images, and actually has a little bit of variety of stuff that we'll be able to showcase and show off. And then I think since they had it last week, we'll be able to talk about the trade night and card show and what the latest was, and then how the reception was for the brand new O-Pee-Chee. Since that was the brand new product that just came out, we'll probably be able to get some idea of how people liked it. It's a little bit more of an affordable product. So for the people that always complain that all the products are too expensive, that one tends to be one of the more affordable products on the calendar. So we'll probably touch on see how people received that and if they liked it. And we'll touch on that and show some cards on there as well. So thanks to AMG Collectibles and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel for supporting the podcast and the channel. So this week, we've got a couple of different items that we're going to showcase. Before I do, I'm going to give you the results of last week's Silly Card of the Week. So we had our 3 cards on there. So 2 of them were tied, and then the winner was actually our Bear Man. Our Calm, Cool, and Collected was the one on there. The other 2 actually tied. So the Chicken Man, and we didn't start the fire, with Jeff Montgomery, tied at 24%, but the winner was at a solid 52%. 52, over half the popular vote went for Bear Man.
I appreciated the title of it.
I thought it was pretty good.
Collected. So
it was.
Appreciated it.
I try to give him a good moniker when I can. When I think there's something appropriate in there, I try to give it. So that was last week's Silly Card of the Week. So congratulations to Brandon. That was the winning one this week. So this week, we've got a couple of other items we're going to showcase here. We're going to start off with a UFC card. So yours is going to be first, Eric. So we're going to show that, and then we'll go through a couple of these other ones. One of them is going to require 2 slides because it's got a little explanation, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's start off with this one here. So first, Eric, before we continue and you explain it, I'm going to need a pronunciation check on this flyweight here from the UFC. Go ahead.
I will not, because if I mess it up and I ever run into him somewhere, he will kill me.
Mm-hmm.
There is no doubt in God's green earth that gentleman would absolutely murder me in a matter of seconds. And I will.
He does have abs on abs.
And I will not disrespect that man by butchering his name.
Mm-hmm. So DF, as he's well known by his friends.
Yeah.
So what is the situation here? Because and I'm going to be completely transparent with all of you. At first glance, I didn't get it. Now, so Eric, give the context. What's the specific thing we're looking at here?
I was at work and going through a collection of just a bunch of modern cards and sorting them. And this one just kind of looked different to me. And I looked at it again and I realized that the head is enlarged. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. it doesn't look right. They've just slightly made the head bigger. And I put it aside and I said, that'd be a funny, silly card of the week. And I kept going through the collection, and I pulled out a Jason Tatum card, Boston Celtics. And his head was enlarged. So at that point, I realized that Topps obviously was doing a thing. They had a theme. They're making cards with enlarged heads to make it look like bobbleheads for some reason. So I said, okay, definitely gonna make this the silly card of the week. And I thought this looked sillier than the Tatum. So I picked this one. I just don't know why they decided to make the athletes look like bobbleheads. But there you go. DF looking like a bobblehead.
Now, just out of curiosity, I do have a legitimate question. Did you at any point find a regular version of this to put it side by side?
No.
So Brandon, do you know why I'm asking?
Yeah, because it might just be his head.
Yeah, but because so just to be clear, the problem is I understand kind of where Eric's going. We're going with this, but it's not disproportionate large. So I'm literally the reason I'm able to do this on my other screen here. I'm typing in and looking, and I'm seeing his name in there, and I'm seeing multiple versions of his card, and they all look like that. At least all the ones that I'm seeing. I'm gonna go into eBay. I'm gonna go through the rest of these.
Okay.
But I want you to know there may be some controversy on this. Eric's submission might be just a regular, and he might just be making fun of DF's head.
I don't want to make fun of DF's head because you'll kill me. But
I know Topps did the big head super short prints in baseball back in I think it was 2021. If I'm not mistaken, and those are pretty big money, and they were really hard to hit. I think it was in Topps Update, if I remember correctly. So it wouldn't be surprising for them to do this. What I was concerned with is that this is actually a serial numbered parallel, which made me wonder, is the base card also the same way? Thus, yeah. Eric, you better hide.
That's the base card.
Yeah.
Either way, as long as he doesn't ever find me, that card looks ridiculous.
Available for $1.25. Buy it now on eBay. Just so y'all know.
Yeah, it looks. I'm trying to find the Tatum card that I had at work, because that one
would make me even happier, Brandon, if it turns out the team card is also not oversized. Eric just has some body dysmorphia where he looks at he's like, I can't believe how gigantic your head is. That's incredible. He's had a lot of concussions, Brandon. A lot of concussions.
Had a lot of concussions.
All right, we're gonna move on. All right, so Brandon, we're gonna go to yours. Man, I only wonder what Eric is gonna think is going on with this one. Like, I'm just curious. Like, we're gonna see. All right, here we go. So let me share the second one here. So this one is yours, and I included both slides. So I got a slide of the item. So first, explain it, and then I'll show the second slide, which includes a screenshot.
Okay, so the explanation is I've seen a reel on Instagram from Golden, and it was this gentleman carrying a briefcase to another gentleman who opens it and gets extremely excited about Cheetozard. And I thought it was just having some humor, and I'm going to say I still am in hopes that it is still humor. However, this card, if you call it that, it's a Cheeto that is in the somewhat form of Charizard, and they created a card and named it Cheetozard. However, it is appearing in the Golden auction, and currently you see the bid there is $67.50. It's like $82 something, I think, with buyer premium. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm choosing that for this week because if people are actually buying on this or bidding on this, I got no explanation.
My only
The
question is
silly
how much
card,
higher is
ridiculous card, whatever card. If someone is actually willing to take 8,000 real dollars and buy this, I don't know where the hell we've made it. So anyway, Cheetozard. That's my my pick of the week.
Yeah. So I have two questions. My first question is, how much higher is Eric willing to go on this? I happen to know he's the high bidder on this, so like he really wants it. Like I can tell.
Yeah.
My second question is, how much is Upper Deck gonna outbid them for? Because I can think of someone at Upper Deck who is drawing inspiration as we speak right now. It's like he's sitting there like Cheetos. That's brilliance, guys. What do you think about Cheetos in the cup?
We're gonna see this again.
I'm seeing it, Brandon. I'm seeing the vision. I'm seeing the vision right now.
We're gonna see this again.
If this, I mean, you see, it's even lot number 70. It's not like the first lot or anything like that. It's lot number 70. It's in the middle of the run of the I think it's the pop culture auction or something, I think is what it's called.
Oh, that's special, right?
I was hoping that it was just them having fun, like haha. But then when I seen there was bids, I don't know for sure. I'm assuming it is actually being auctioned, and people have more money than I guess we know what to do with for $8,000 on a Cheeto. But
What has this world come to?
I guess people did spend, what was it, $2 million on a damn banana taped to a wall or some shit.
That's what I'm saying.
So
this is downright
art.
bargain by
This
comparison.
is art. Cheetos
This is a
art.
bargain by. But look, I have a legitimate question on this. So let me ask a legitimate question. Assuming you win this, how do you expect to preserve this thing so it doesn't disintegrate and become a problem?
Well, I see that they have it in a snap case. I'm assuming.
I don't think that's going to be enough. That's not good enough. I'm sorry.
So I was wondering which company is going to figure out how to put it in a holder.
I actually think, Brandon, I think you would have to freeze it.
And some
like you'd have to do something that would preserve it.
Well, I don't know. Them Cheetos have enough oil in them. They might just harden.
Eric, we need some science here. We need some hashtag science right now.
I do know that flaming hot Cheetos can be lit on fire, so you would need to make sure it's away from flammables.
I feel like somehow Eric's silicone should be involved. Like I feel like silicone should be involved as part of this in some way. I haven't figured out how. We need some hashtag science on this.
If you notice, they also have it in like a ball cube as well. So
oh, you're gonna need a lot of things, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I seen it and I was just like, I watched the reel twice because I was like, wow, they got bored. And then I noticed that it said it was in the auction. I was like, there's no freaking way. So I went to the auction, found it, and then I seen bids, and yeah, that's when that was my decision. This is my card for the week.
You know, my only regret here, Brandon, above all other things, my only regret is that we didn't have Cheetozard in the era when fractional ownership was bigger. This would have been it. Yeah. Imagine a consortium.
We each could have purchased a crumb.
Yeah. We could have bought a share in Cheetozard. The dream could have lived. Alas, we've missed our window on this one. But nonetheless, that's your second choice for Silly Card of the Week. Last one. Eric, you'll appreciate this. Last one.
Okay.
You made the claims, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring in some hockey. Not only that,
the hockey.
I'm going to bring some vintage hockeys. Vintage
hockeys.
Here we go. I'm going to bring some vintage hockeys.
Okay.
All right. So we're going pre-war vintage hockeys.
Pre-war.
1937 Worldwide Gum. Harold Cotton of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And let me tell you, he was looking into this Cheetozard, and that is the look on his face.
His eyes are rolled up into his skull.
Yep. Yes, they are.
Why does it look like he's in a 3-point stance, ready to block?
Because 1937 Worldwide Gum.
He might be holding the stick down.
Yeah.
So the important thing, Brandon, is that, and this is actually one of the cards that was acquired by AMG in a recent purchase of multiple pre-war hockey cards. The thing is, and I had some fun with it when we showcased it. This is one of the items that was there. The thing is, I came to the conclusion in the discussion with Steve, the collector of the scalpers, collector of the people, and Blair. I came to the conclusion that whoever was responsible for selecting the photos did not like some of these players. Because some of these players got done real dirty. Real dirty.
Wow.
That card reminds me of 48 Bowman.
Yeah, it has a similar styling, but this is 1937, so it predates it by 11 years. But
it
nonetheless,
just reminds me of 48 Bowman baseball.
and I got to be honest with you, Eric. Not only is this my nomination for Silly Card of the Week,
Yeah.
I've decided that if the circumstances are right, I shall have it.
Oh,
I kind of want it. I just enjoy the unintentional comedy of this card and this image.
my guess, and I don't know how good the photography was back there, but it looks like maybe he was taking a face off and he's looking up at the ref to see when he's gonna.
These are pose photos, Eric. Like I looked at a bunch of the other ones. They're pose photos. They just did this man dirty. They probably had better options, but they chose this one. Somebody didn't like this guy.
No, that's just bad.
And the best part is he's not the only one who has a really bad. If you guys want to have some fun, go look into the set and check out some of the photos. There is a surprising amount of photos where they did some of these guys dirty on this. Real. And there are a lot of the close-ups, so you get a chance to look at their face. Yeah, Harold Cotton is, his eyes rolling in the head. He's a little googly-eyed. Something's going on over there. I don't know what happened, but he's got better images than this.
Yeah,
but
he's had concussions. That guy.
Yeah. So nonetheless, those are our selections for the Silly Card of the Week. You're getting three ends of the spectrum right there. You're getting the UFC card, which is a regular UFC card, and Eric is just being really mean about the size of a man's head. You got Cheetozard, which I understand. Look, I'm not going to have any qualms with Cheetozard, but Harold Cotton is concerned about Cheetozard. Harold over there, he's deeply disturbed by it.
Me too. I thought it was just a prank.
Just a prank, bro. Just a prank.
And that man's head does not fit on his body.
Eric, I'm literally looking at more pictures of it, and every single one of them looks like that. All of them. I can't find. Maybe the variation is the normal size head.
No, I hope he never finds me.
I was gonna say, like, oh boy, Eric's gonna find out. He's gonna learn today. So there you go. Silly card of the week. Okay, so real quick. Speaking of the Harold Cotton thing, I was having a little bit of fun, and I talked about on the Friday Live. And by the way, for the record, the Friday Live was an interesting tale of like two sections. The first section I thought was pretty strong. Towards the tail end, honestly, I was getting very tired. So Bobby was pontificating quite a bit, and I was like, I'd interrupt him, but I'm too tired for this. I was already out of gas, so we made it work. But nonetheless, I was a little gassed on that one. But I will say, one of the things I was talking about when we were doing the Friday Live was that I had a stack of 71 O-Pee-Chees, and Brad, Eric's best friend, was nice enough to provide the Daryl Sittler, and I enjoyed that it was a really beat up Daryl Sittler. But when I got the rest of the cards together, and here's the stack of them right now, I actually found out that I had more of them than I thought, number one, and number two, I didn't realize that I had like a couple, like I had some of the stars, some of the key cards. I didn't have the Sittler, but I did have the Brad Park rookie. I actually had the Bobby Clark rookie. Didn't realize I had that one. Obviously, I have Bobby Hall and I have Gordie Howe. I remembered having those two. I was pretty sure I had those. Yeah. But what I didn't even realize I had Eric's buddy there, old Booby Orr. And the thing is, the card actually looked pretty decent. Now, I did figure out, Eric, that I'm pretty sure I got a good deal on it because it does have writing. If you look right there with his leg.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, like if I hold the card right here, it's actually pretty good. It's got pretty good eye appeal, and the back of the card is actually pretty clean.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? That means I probably got a pretty good deal on that one. I probably didn't pay a lot. But it's like, nonetheless, it's like, actually, it's a pretty solid looking card. So I put together the checklist. I have 87 of the cards. It's a 264 card checklist. So what I'm thinking, I love my projects. I've talked about how I love my different projects. Yeah. So what I'm thinking, now that I have the checklist completed and set up and everything, my thought is at the upcoming expo, I'd like to take on the little task and seeing how many I can get that would fill in that checklist. And I feel like I could do a lot of damage, especially at the expo, in getting, I'm not going to be looking for super high end, but I could probably do some damage with it.
We should do that together because, let me see here. This is my blue dots. Blue dots are the ones that I have from that year.
70-71?
highlighted is Bruins. I have all those, but you know, and I have all the big cards except the Sittler. So
Should have asked your best friend. He had a Sittler.
so I'm not asking that son of a bitch for nothing. All right.
Ah, look, he already gave you enough. He gave you a 66, 67 minor league rookie. Just saying.
Yeah, actually, I also need the Gilbert Perreault rookie. I have it in Topps. I guess I got to get it in O-Pee-Chee, but yeah, that'd be a fun little thing. You and I going head to head, trying to collect the same set and see how we do.
So I think, Brandon, my big thought is since I do love me the content, and I do vlogs from the expo anyway. So the reason I'm saying I've compiled the checklist now. And the expo obviously is like an epicenter of the hockeys. And there are a lot of dealers that have this stuff. And 70-71 is not like the craziest set in terms of cost. And like I said, I have the key cards. Now for me, so it'd be looking for those commons and the semi-stars. So it'd be looking for stacks of them. And I'm not looking for super high grade. I would happily take some mid-grade singles. So the challenge would be, and I'm going to have enough budget to be able to certainly, I could complete the set on the floor. I could buy the damn set on the floor, realistically. But the goal would be, can I go through, get the singles? How much damage can I do to that checklist over the course of a weekend at the expo? And that could itself be part of the video vlogs and kind of show off some of the progress to it. It would create a little fun challenge for me inside of, because the Medanos, I'm going to see them, but some of them might be overpriced. I struggle the last couple of years. I've struggled to find ones that fit what I'm looking for. I don't need anything anymore. Now it's like, you got to show me something cool, but it's getting harder and harder to find the cool thing every year. Every year it gets a little bit tougher, but it would be kind of fun to actually have something where I know for a fact there are going to be dealers out there that are going to have 70-71. I literally would go, do you have some 70-71 PG? Hold on, let me grab the box.
Yeah,
and there will be guys.
Lousy.
I actually, and this kind of will portray of where I'm at back into the happy place in the hobby. I got my happy ass up Saturday morning and decided to go hit a card show up. Me and my wife, and it's the little small local one that I actually had set up at a couple times several years ago. And so we drove out there, and I had planned to do a little bit of video and stuff. I wanted to dig in some value boxes and see if there was any players or like any of the teams I collect. And the issue was when I got there, it was absolutely packed.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no room to like be in a spot to look through value boxes really. And the ones that I did find were all ultra modern, new release. Like for football, it was like the Prism and Mosaic stuff. Baseball, you had like your last 2 to 3 years of Topps Chrome Bowman, that kind of stuff. But it was nothing that I was really looking for. And it was probably 60 to 70% Pokemon. And that really surprised me because that show specifically used to have very little, and now it like dominated the show. Like it and the audience, the age of the audience of most of the foot traffic there also correlated to that, that collector space. So we didn't stay long. I walked around, looked and just see what was there, but I didn't find nothing and we left. So I didn't record or anything like that. But yeah.
Oh, that's fair. Like I said, more than anything else, I just found it as kind of a fun little thing. I wouldn't have even I wouldn't have given it serious consideration if the Sittler that Brad had wasn't like the remaining key. That was technically that's the key rookie. That's the main one. But then I've got the other ones, and then I've got the Bobby Orr. I've got the Gordie Howe. I've got the Bobby Hull. Most of them are beat up, but like, again, do I care? Not really. The point of this isn't to put together a pristine set. The challenge is to put together, whatever. I'm probably going to grab some mid-tier singles, but I feel at that show, it would be interesting to see, again, how much damage I could do inside of that one show, isolated to that one couple of days, go through some dealers' inventory, see what I can locate, see what deals I can put together with them, and see if I could finish the set over the weekend. it is possible. It's one of those things where it is a possibility, and we'll see. Like maybe they've got the stuff, maybe they don't. I know some of the dealers bring a fair bit of inventory, so it's just a matter of getting the right deals put together, because I don't want to just pay whatever ridiculous number they come up with. I'd like to still negotiate and do the usual things that I would do and make it still a challenge. But stuff like that, challenges and little projects like that, are where it's fun for me. That again, Chosen Rosen is basically that. Can I locate? I want to find, I don't just want to find it. I want to then pay as little as I can. What's the best deal I can get on the table? What little fun things can I do? So that is one thing that kind of struck me that I thought would be interesting, kind of a fun little side project. So for now, I've got the cards here. I'll put them aside. Maybe I'll put these in a binder, and then I'll see if maybe the play here is going to be to, now that I have the checklist done, I can load it onto my phone, and then, Expo's around the corner. It's late April, I think, this year. So we're, Eric, less than 2 months away. So right around 2 months, which isn't bad. So, though I think there'll still be a number of us down there, and it'll be kind of fun. And probably I'll send a couple of minions down there to go and look for it. So I'd be happy to do that with you, Eric. But then, but you're not going to be there until the fall. So we'll see. I'm going to be doing this one in the spring, and we'll see how much damage I can do.
Yeah. I'm probably not coming up. There's like a 10% chance that I'm coming in the spring. So that's not very good.
That's 9.5% more than I thought. So there you go. Normally it's automatically the fall for you. So I'm impressed you even got to 10%.
Yeah, we're at 10% right now.
There you go. So we'll see what happens. Maybe if DF is chasing him out of the country, Eric might have to flee to Canada.
Place to hide. I
was going to say, after you make fun of, it's like, so you think I got a big head there, bougie?
Yeah, he'll knock mine right off. Use it as a bowling ball.
Just say it, man. Like, man. No. See, Brandon, we're all here being men of peace, and Eric is over here making fun of a random UFC fighter just so he can incur anger for no reason.
Trying to be 5% more mature, and this guy is down here making fun of somebody's head who just happens to be a fighter.
That thing's huge. That thing doesn't look right on his body.
I just love the fact that I was like, did you check a base card just to make sure that it was actually
I was having
variation?
the same thought.
Listen,
like I said, because of the serial number and everything, and I was like, that'd be odd for them to do that. But
because the Tatum looks just as ridiculous. But I didn't take a picture of that.
Again, I'm hoping Jason Tatum his head is actually the correct size as well. It's like maybe it's a perspective thing or whatever. Or again, maybe Eric has body dysmorphia. He like sees big heads everywhere. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I like big heads, and I cannot lie.
Well, the
more jokes to come on Friday.
Flyweight, so he's probably a small dude. So
he's a small dude. Yeah, for sure.
The angle and maybe probably a little bit of disproportionate, but
I'm gonna look at it again when I go into work tomorrow.
You keep staring. You might have to buy the card. You might have to buy the card. That might have to become part of your collection. Yeah. So anyway, so that's one kind of fun little project that I'm working on. So that was kind of a fun thing. Other than that, things are going for me. I'm having a lot of fun with working on some of my mini projects. One thing that I'll talk about more in the coming weeks, once I start getting the cards in hand, is I've talked about, over on the wrestling channel. I talk a lot of the stuff that the Britt Baker, the Dennis PC is my main thing that I do on there. But I do have one WWE character that I will collect cards for. And I've actually been making a lot of hay in the 2025 Topps Chrome. So they got the new Topps Chrome WWE, and that's been the big release that they put out there. Very popular. And because so much of it's getting broken, a lot of the stuff is wound up on eBay. And so because Chrome has started to move in the direction of Prism, similar to what Panini's doing, they've got a lot of parallels. However, in one of the insert subsets, they have still a fair number of parallels, but in one of them, they only have about 12 or 13 parallels, which is still a lot, let's be fair. However, because so much stuff was getting broken, I was able to pick off a lot of it. Even some of the Breaker's Delight and all those versions of it totals to like 13. So I've actually got 11 of the 13, which is actually pretty good. The only ones I'm missing right now is like the base refractor, the superfractor, which I'm not even worrying about. Like, the superfractor is going to be its own thing. There's an out of 2 version. The other ones, other than the base refractor, I've got basically all the attainable ones, because after that, it'll be the out of 2 and the 1-of-1. So for the most part, most of it completed rainbow. I think it'll look pretty good when it's finished. They're all going to look pretty solid when they're in hand. So that's been kind of my mini challenge, trying to chase down all the individual pieces.
We have a lot of wrestling stuff. Like a stupid amount of boxes and boxes and boxes. So, and it seems to be all WWE. I haven't come across too much because I'm always looking for the, Dr. Britt there, whatever, for you. If you are collecting WWE stuff, you need to let me know so I can look through it, and if it comes through, I can grab it for you. But I mean, we're lousy with singles. We do have stuff out in the display case. There's some higher end stuff also. But I have monster boxes filled with chrome and some vintage WWF stuff. So you need to let me know what you're looking for so I can grab it for you.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I'm kind of picky with it because my main focus is in other areas, but it's one of those things where, because it was the new product, I figured I would take a shot at it, see what I could do. I ended up making a pretty good run with it, picking up a lot of the pieces. So that's been kind of my other. So I've got the one little idea that I came across here with the sorting the cards, and the other one was just this thing I've been picking away. I'm letting y'all open the boxes. You guys open the boxes. You pull the singles. I'll go grab those singles as they crop up. I haven't heard of the Superfractor, the other one, showing up yet. I'm sure they will at some point, but I haven't seen it yet. But a lot of those Superfractors, to be honest, are going for too much. I think some folks are really aggressive with the new WWE, especially since the product just came out and a lot of people are very hot on it. Because they did the at card shops, they did that breaker night, or what was it called? They at a bunch of card shows, they had an event recently with Fanatics. And they actually took out basketball players, baseball players, even some WWE folk were out there. It was like Hobby Rip Night or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do that for like Series 1 and stuff. They always have the Topps Rip Party.
Yes, that's Rip Party. That's the one. Yeah. So they even had WWE folks for a couple of those shops go and do some of those Rip Parties. So they've been inviting a bunch of them to a lot of shops all over the place to kind of help promote the product. What's funny is one of the WWE folks, The Miz, actually was there at one of the shops. I don't remember which shop it was, and they showed it on the social media. But the thing is, and this is where you get into the whole question of the hashtag rig, he opened one pack of WWE Chrome and pulled an autograph of The Rock. And I'm like, go on.
Where have I heard stories about Rock autos before?
Where's Rick when you need him? Where is Rick?
Yeah.
Is what I need to know.
Rick
Where's
Rock.
Rick? Yep. So all I'm saying, Brandon, I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying it's mighty interesting that a Rip Party, when the social media is there and the camera's on, The Rock, by the way, signed cards for that set, but it's not like he signed 1,000 cards in that set. Like The Rock's kind of busy. He's got stuff to do. He did sign cards for it, but not a lot of them.
Right.
So
I've been noticing a lot of the top social media is showing kids hitting high-end 101s.
But here's the thing. If a kid pulls a high-end 101 and you want to hashtag rig it, I don't care. And again, if
it's just weird how we didn't see that for so long, and now it's like more and more and more common. And I'm not saying that it's not happening. I don't want to go down.
I think the Miz though, opening a pack of WWE and pulling The Rock, I think is a little bit more like.
Yeah.
It's just, again, like at a Rip Party, that's specifically hosted by Topps. I'm saying like we're layering too much stuff on top of each other. Yeah, we're layering too much stuff on top of each other. Yeah, just throwing it out there. And again, I'm not the hobby conspiracy guy. Yeah. I tend to be more inclined to be like, yeah, whatever. But I was like, dude, really? You specifically? Okay, fine, whatever. Anyway, so that's fine. But I just thought I just got a kick out of that. I was very amused by it. So yeah, a little mini project I was working on, and then this 70. So in the next couple of months here, when the Spring Expo happens, I'll bring it up again. I think that's going to be my challenge. I think I'm going to go for it. I'm going to bring some money to the Spring Expo. It'll be fun. The Burrell will be there, and some of the other folks will be there. And if that comes to pass, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to see my little 70-71 OPC challenge. Let me see how many cards I can get. We'll give it a go, and I think we'll have some fun with it.
Not only am I trying to get the 70-71 OPC set done, because I already have.
Because everything is OPC, just so we're clear.
Everything is OPC. Except for the 70-71 top set, which I already have done. I'm also trying to get just the Bruins, right? Because I can't go down that rabbit hole that I'm doing with 69-70. That's killing me. But just the Bruins 70-71, I want to get it all autographed. So this just came in. Eddie Westfall, it says 70-72 Stanley Cups. I've shown this before. I got the 79 Hall of Fame on that. So I'm trying to get the team set done, and I was just about to look to see where I'm at with that, and I don't know. Let's see here. I think I'm doing pretty well. Let me think. We got Jerry Cheevers. We have Fred Stanfield.
I only know G-Rye. I only know G-Rye.
Fred Stanfield.
There is no other.
There's Derek.
Derek?
Yeah, there's Dallas. And then we actually had some cards made for a signing that we did, because these guys were on the team but didn't have cards. So we had some cards made. There's Jim Harrison, Bill Lazouk, Jim Lawrence. These guys were all on the Cup team, but they didn't get cards. There's Jim Harrison right there, and his rookie card. He was also on the Bruins team that year. There's Don Orey. Let me see here. There's Pye McKenzie. Now, I've met a lot of these guys, I'm happy to say. Some have passed, but I've met most of them. It's Wayne Cashman.
And to be clear, how many of them have oversized heads?
Fair questions. Fair question.
Fair question. This Ken Hodge. There's John Busick. I got to get him to add Hall of Fame to that. There's Wayne Carlton. Ed Johnston, which I just had done recently when he was at the shop, middle of last year or something. Rick Smith did his the same day. And there's Don Marcotte. I had him do that in blue paint pen, which I think came out pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So now we'll add Eddie Westfall to that one.
And that meets our vintage quota for the episode.
And they just
it has been met.
All of them
it has been met. All right. So real quick, before we get into the kind of the main discussion that I wanted to have, let's quickly touch on Ovechkin. So right now he's obviously on the Gretzky chase. A lot of stuff going on. One of the things we were talking about is before we started hit record was all the different stuff. So he had a hat trick just the other day, or was it yesterday? I think yesterday he had the hat trick. Yeah. So good on him. One of the things that he touched on that we touched about real quick was that since he had the game winner in that game, that actually ties him for the most game winning goals. So that's kind of a record he's chasing. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that was one of them. The other one that I made mention of is he's currently at 29 goals. So the next goal he scores will be his 30th, and that would be his 19th 30-goal season, which would be extending his own record. So very impressive. Obviously, he's a long shot. 40 goals is possible if he stays hot, because he can get real streaky. He can obviously at the beginning of the season before he broke his leg, like he was on fire. Since then he's come back and he's actually continued a pretty good, like if you look at the amount of games he's played, 29 goals is actually right. He's still right near the top of the goal scoring leaders, even with a month off with a broken leg. So that's very impressive, all things considered.
He is very impressive.
Yeah. So this season in particular has done well for him.
39. So he's knocking on 40.
Yep.
Been in the league like 20 years. And he is, and not all of his goals, because I kind of try to pay attention, because I like to, give him a hard time that, he just goes and lazily stands in his spot and people keep feeding him, and he still has a really good, slap shot, and he's accurate. But if you watched like yesterday's game, he didn't score from his spot on any of those 3 goals. Like
the second one, he fired the slap shot from kind of it. The first one was a wrister from the middle, which was a really good, was a great wrist shot. So to your point, a lot of people give Ovechkin flack for the empty netters.
And the third one, you had to play defense.
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say the
And it was a good
empty
shot.
netter.
It was a good shot down the middle, actually. It was a good shot.
Right.
Well, the empty netter was proof that sometimes shit just going your way, because he was literally out there, end of the game, empty net, and the guy went to take a shot. Ovechkin was playing defense, and the dude's stick broke.
Yeah.
And so the puck like just floated to Ovi right on the blade, and he was in the middle of the ice and just fired it down, but it almost got blocked. So he had to, like, he couldn't just lob it down there. He had to fire the damn thing down. But yeah, it was like one of those holy shit of all things that could happen. The guy's stick broke.
Yeah. But with that said, he shot it from the other end of the rink, and he shot it dead center.
Mhm.
It wasn't like he almost missed the net. He actually shot it. It was a bang on shot from the other end of the rink. So, credit to that. But the first goal was a great wrist shot. Like, he just had a good old So it's one of those things where you can knock the guy for different things, but the reality is the skills are still there. He's still got he's got a great wrist shot, and he's got a potent slap shot, and it's accurate. So it's one of those things, like, he's not just firing randomly at the net. He's firing opposite to where the goaltender is. He's on this side. He's firing it to the other side and hitting it. So he keeps hitting his targets. Like, it's not an accident that this dude has scored 880 goals.
No.
He's done it in almost every way imaginable. So the record, he's currently tied. So him and Jaromir Jagr are tied with the most game-winning goals at 135. So you have to think, 135 games were won on his stick. That's impressive. That's a great record.
Over a season and a half.
Yeah, so that's a great record. That's a lot of wins that you helped contributed to specifically as a game winner. Power play goals, he's right up there. Even shorthanded, like, he almost every version of scoring, he is in position with amongst the best. And then again, if he scores his next goal, that'll be 30 goals again for the 19th season out of 20. 19 out of 20 seasons, he scored at least 30. So that tells you something. And he is tied with the most 50 goal seasons. He has the most 40 goal seasons. So it's like every metric. And kind of Eric was talking about,
not every metric, because even with everything you just said and him eventually passing Gretzky, he is still, and neither is Gretzky, the greatest scorer in NHL history. That would be Mike Bossy.
On a per game basis, yeah.
So, and really, that's all that really matters, right? When it comes to it, right? Longevity is important, obviously, and all these statistics are great. But what have you done for me lately?
Hold on.
What you've done for me lately? Mike Bossy's dead. He hasn't done anything lately.
The point is per game.
Wait. Hold on, because I've seen this statistic. I've seen this statistic. I'm going to pull this photo up, okay? Because I've seen this statistic, and you're saying that on a per game basis scoring, right?
Yeah.
That's what's most important. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump over to the NBA just for a moment, because I did not think this was real. But Zion Williamson, yes, that Zion, the one that has became a meme in
Zion
the
Hut. Zion the Hut. Yep.
Zion. He has hit 5,000 career points, and he's actually the third fastest to hit 5,000 career points in 203 games. The only two players that did it quicker was Luka Doncic and LeBron James. So if we're going on a points per game basis, you're now telling me that Zion is the third best player in the history of the NBA.
No, you can't compare those sports.
So look, I'm actually going to have a little bit of fun with Eric's thing. I don't agree with this assessment, and the reason I don't agree with this assessment is that you're rewarding Mike Bossy for quitting because his back gave out. You know what number 2 is in most goals per game in the NHL?
No.
There's actually 3 guys tied. 2 of them are like in the pre-war era, so I'm not going to count them. Unless you want to make a pitch for Cy Denny and Babe Dye. I'm not going to count those 2. They're in the pre-war era, very different style of hockey. It's not the same.
I'd much rather talk about something more modern. Yes.
Yeah. The one behind him is Mario Lemieux. Mario Lemieux played 127 more games and is 0.75 goals per game, and Mike Bossy's 0.76. Mario's is more impressive. Mario's is more impressive because he did it for longer. And that's with all his time off because of injuries, a cancer diagnosis, and all those things.
Back.
Yeah. The problem with the Bossy thing, if you want to use that, that's cool. The problem is if Bossy plays even another season, that average could have dropped. His last season, he didn't score as many goals as he normally does.
Right. Well,
so he was on the decline technically when he retired.
His back was it was like a knife in his back. And as someone who's had major back issues, I can't understand how he got through the last couple of seasons. So, but if Bossy, it's always what if in sports, right? I mean, every conversation is what if he didn't have that back injury.
But we've always said, even on this channel, we've always said the best ability is availability.
Yeah, well, it's not even that. Like, no, I'm being serious. Like, just for a moment, let's quickly have a serious conversation. The thing is, that what if is fine, but Mario Lemieux has that what if, but he played more games and he actually still maintained his scoring average on par.
And Lemieux might have been chasing Bossy too, and they may have caught him because Bossy started in 77. Right. So these guys weren't Lemieux showed up in 85, Gretzky in the NHL in 1979, 80. So they would have been chasing him. And they may have caught him. But I think if Bossy stayed healthy and continued on that pace, he would have broken Howe's record first. And then Gretzky and Lemieux would have been chasing him.
That is, but that's a lot of assumptions. The problem is he didn't.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what works against him is that he was able to retire before he started declining. Because you forget these players do decline, all of them decline as they get older. He retired at 30.
Yes, but in the last couple of seasons, he couldn't tie his own skates, so he was already playing hurt and declining. So it wasn't so much an age thing. His back completely gave out.
Yeah, but I'm saying when you do a per game average and you play way less games than somebody else, I'm rewarding you for not playing.
Yes, but
he would have been even better off if he had retired at 25 because he actually should have retired 5 years sooner.
He didn't have a short career. You're not supposed to play 20 seasons in the NHL. I mean, that's remarkable. You're not supposed to play until you're 52, like Gordie Howe and Jaromir Jagr. Playing
that's professional fine. But the guys at the top of that number that we're talking about, though, did not play until they're 52. Barry Lemieux did not play until he's 52. He took many years off, and he still was right with it. Again, we're talking within 0.01 goals per game. Yeah. So Mario, and he did it for more than 100 games more. It's actually harder to do it the more games you play.
Listen, I'll be have no problem saying that Lemieux is top 5 greatest players ever, and Ovechkin's not even in that conversation. So
yeah, but we're not talking about best players ever. We're talking about goal scorers. Even as a goal scorer, Lemieux was superior. He actually did it for more years,
and so is Bossy.
Yeah, but I'm saying Lemieux did it for more years. Bossy doesn't get credit for years he didn't play. Your average goes down the more years you play. It actually hurts you to keep playing. It benefits you to stop playing. And Lemieux had higher goal scoring seasons than Bossy. Bossy was consistent. He was a machine.
But if a guy played 20 games and then lost a leg in a car accident, and he scored every single game and had ended his career with 20 goals, I'm not saying he's the greatest goal scorer ever, because he could have just been on a heater. But I mean, Bossy played from like 77 to 89. I mean, he had a long enough career that, it counts.
Yeah, but it's at the bare minimum. And what I'm getting at is that Lemieux has almost the same average with 100 more games, like more than 100 more games. It is more impressive. I'm sorry. I'm not giving him that much credit. He is better, but by a fraction of a point. We're talking a fraction of a point.
I guess to break it down,
upset about Lemieux. Anyone saying Lemieux's better than anybody, because
to break it down, if you took Lemieux's and Bossy's same number of games, and I don't have the stats pulled up, but what Carlos is saying is if you gave them on equal territory, Lemieux probably had as best or as good or better during that period. And then later on, he probably tailed off slightly. That would dropped it down just a tick. And even
Yeah.
still, he was 0.01 within with
The,
having more games.
the fairest thing to do is to look at everybody's first, find out how many games Bossy played. And then anyone who, played more than that, you just count the number Bossy played and see what their numbers are. So, Lemieux played more, Gretzky played more, Ovechkin played more, Hull played more. Just count their first 100 and, not 100, but their first, 500 games or whatever the hell it is, and see who has the better statistics. And that's how that's one way to be more fair about it. And I think Bossy's probably still number one. I mean,
Okay, so I have the answer for you. So Bossy played 10 seasons.
Yeah.
Mario Lemieux's first 10 seasons, he has 0.82 goals per game. He was better. Conversation over. Mario Lemieux's first 599 games, which is 10 seasons, is better than Mike Bossy's first 10 seasons, 573 games. That's the best apples to apple I can give you. Mario was literally 0.06 goals per game better than Bossy through 10 seasons. If Lemieux had just retired, he would have been way ahead of him.
Yeah, if his back,
he should have just quit.
He should have just quit. Ahead.
He should literally have quit after 10 seasons. And he would have been ahead of Bossy, because he already was ahead of Bossy after 10 seasons. He should have just stopped, but he kept playing, and he still played well. So he was punished for more games. There's the answer to your question. First 10 seasons.
He came out of retirement because his kid didn't know. I just heard the story the other day that his kid didn't know who his father was in that setting. And he thought his dad just, was the owner of the Penguins, and he was down in the training room with someone and said, who's that? And they're like, that's your father.
Yeah, but I'm talking about before that, though. Like his first 10 seasons was up until age 20. I get it. Look, to put it into perspective here, I'm actually giving Bossy the benefit of the doubt here, because he took 94, 95 off and didn't come back until 95, 96. This was the cancer diagnosis, the Parkinson's or whatever. So after that, his last in 93, 94, Brandon. So I'll throw this one. In 93, 94, Lemieux had 17 goals in 22 games. He didn't play most of that season, but 17 goals in 22 games. That was his last of his 10 seasons that I just counted for. When he came back, Brandon, in 95, 96, at age 30, the same year Bossy retired, Mario Lemieux scored 69 goals in 70 games. His average actually would have improved if I include season 11. Mm-hmm. And if I include season 12, he scored 50 in 76. Only when he came back at age 35, after taking 2 seasons off, did he lower his goals per game average to bring it just below Bossy.
That's what I was saying. When you look at the extended, most people start tapering down, and that's when the number's dropping. So that's what I said.
So that's what I mean. Like the longer you play, it actually hurts your average
scale.
Yeah. So if he wanted to be ahead of Bossy on a goals per game basis, all he had to do was retire and stay retired, because he actually was already ahead of the guy. And he played more games.
Mario was in the top 5 greatest players ever, and there's a lot of reasons why.
Yeah,
he was.
And one more for you guys who love your stats. Through 12 seasons, so through the 96, 97 season is his official retirement before he came back. He played 745 games, and in 745 games had 613 goals. So he was still at 0.82 goals per game, and he had almost 1,500 points in 745 games. Which is absurd. If you really think about that, that is ridiculous.
Oh, he was just ridiculous.
But he had Yager as a sidekick.
Not for the whole time.
Yeah, he very much like Gretzky. Just about everybody on his team was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So again, if Mario had retired at that point and didn't come back in 2000, he had 2.005 points per game. Over 2 points per game for 745 games.
So points or goals?
That one's points.
Okay.
Goals was 0.82.
Yeah.
Which is again, phenomenal.
Well, that's why his card's worth more.
Yep. So regardless, both very great goal scorers, and OV is at 0.60 over 1,500 games, which is also very impressive if you think about that.
What's Gretzky at? Is that in front of you?
In terms of goals per game, yes, I will find that.
I mean, because his last couple of years, I mean, he just dropped it like a
tied with Ovechkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of goals per game, Gretzky and Ovechkin. So again, same thing.
I think his last season, I think he had like 9.
He had 9 goals. That's what I mean. Like sometimes you get, the longer you play, it's not actually to your benefit. Like it actually doesn't help your averages.
If you care about your stats, it's not. No. Care about your bank account, stay as long as you can.
Yeah. Well, the thing though is what we were talking about earlier though. This entire conversation came out about not Ovechkin in year 1, year 2. We're talking about Ovechkin in year 20, and he's at 29 goals.
Yeah.
Like if you look at his goal, it's actually, so in reality, Gretzky was 39 when he retired. Yeah, with a broken leg, literally. Yes.
Yeah.
Look, let's just put it this way. If you just want to do the comparison with those two guys, again, they're tied in number of goals per game. Ovechkin has 29 goals in 41 games this season, which is excellent, obviously.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is his age 39 season. And at age 39, Gretzky had 9 goals. Ovechkin has 29.
Yeah. And
so like Ovechkin's consistency over this long period of time is what is allowed, because he doesn't have the 1980s. So he can't have a 90 goal season because that just isn't possible in the current NHL.
He also had a couple things that tripped it up, like the lockout and the COVID year and all that. Yeah. So that's kind of tripped him up a little bit.
Yeah, he would have already surpassed 900 goals had he been allowed to play his prime in the middle of it.
But Gretzky has time missed too, because he missed most of the season because of his back. He had a lockout. He had other negatives.
Yeah, but the lockout came in the second half of his career. Ovechkin's little career started on
rookie
lockout.
Season.
His rookie season started on lockout, like at the very beginning. It's one thing if you're missing games in your 30s. It's another thing if you're missing games like smack in your 20s when you're that's your best time to be really putting up the stats. Because one of the seasons he was actually, again, he would already have the 50 goal record. One season he had 49 goals. He fell just shy. Otherwise, he'd already have the 50 goal record on top of the other record. But for him, he topped out at 65. And that was at a time when nobody was scoring 60. Now, today, if you pay attention, now guys are scoring more again. But now he's in his late 30s, almost 40. Like he missed the window. Like scoring has come back up, but now he's missed that window.
I want to also make a mention. Yes.
Is it about Jason Robertson? It's about Jason Robertson, isn't it?
No, it is not. It is not. It's actually with, you have to appreciate the longevity that Ovechkin has stayed in Washington, because he's done this all on one team. They won 1 cup with him there, but he stayed on one team. That doesn't happen a lot anymore.
No, I mean, Gretzky played for 4. Lemieux stayed,
and he owned the team in the latter portion. He literally owned the team.
Yager played for every team in the league. Brett Hull played for 3. I can, quickly off top of my head. I mean, no, Hull played for 4. I forgot about Arizona.
Did you forget about Calgary?
I did.
Yeah, he started with Calgary.
Yeah, I did forget about that. So that's 5.
That's right at the beginning of his career, but I remember that one specifically because that's when he started.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of these stars that put up huge points, they moved around a lot, and he hasn't, and that is uncommon.
There you go. So I hope you all enjoyed. That was extended hockey talk. Hopefully, Eric, you appreciated that we got some extended hockey talk in there.
I love hockey talk, even if I'm wrong or what. I love to learn new stuff. I know you're always.
And we dug into the stats. We dug into the stats deep, Brandon. We went deep.
And that's what you're really good at. I have a good memory when it comes to hockey history and things like that. As opposed to someone who doesn't know anything about it. I mean, I don't know if I would. I don't think TSN is going to be calling me anytime soon to help them out. But, as opposed to Joe Average, I have a good hockey memory. But you're really good with being able to get those stats and do the maths and bring that part to the table. So I always appreciate that.
Yep. An important thing, though, in the course of this conversation, we have our debates and our disagreement on it. But at the same time, just to be clear, and I think, Brandon, you'll agree with this, with all those guys we were talking about, we're splitting hairs.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking about the best of the best. Like all these guys are amongst. If Ovechkin was quote unquote the worst of that group, he's also on the verge of the most goals all time. Like it's hard to debate. And to me, I give credit for longevity. I think if you can demonstrate to me you can do it year after year after year after year after year, and then
at
you
a
break
high
your
level.
leg, and then
Yeah,
you
at a
break
high
your
level
leg
too,
in
so
nearly 40, you come back and you're still scoring. And again, we talked about that game. He demonstrated, and Eric agrees with this though, in that game, in 2 of those goals, he demonstrated his skill. He
Yeah.
demonstrated the kind of wrist shot he still got. He demonstrated the slap shot, which is almost unstoppable when he's on target with it, because he can hit it all the time. He's done it against so many goaltenders. I think he has the
Well,
record for the most goaltenders he scored against.
and something that I texted you guys yesterday and was talking about the Capitals in general, because I was I got to catch about half of that game, but it's impressive that team, as of yesterday's win, they had the most points in the NHL for the season. So you have this 39-year-old who's been out with a broken leg and everything, on the cusp of passing a great record that probably not many people ever thought would be broken. They're feeding him the puck like hell, trying to get him to this record.
Oh yeah, they are.
And yet they're still managing to put together solid games and wins. Like Ovi had 3 goals yesterday, but the Capitals had 15 goals on Saturday and Sunday coming out of the break. That's impressive as hell when the team can work together and play at a high level like that, while also trying to feed this, because they could just be focusing, let him shoot the puck every damn time until he got this record. But they're actually winning the damn games, and he's still able to be a significant part of it, even though that's out there. So
Well, I think
it's
look, basically
it's
what
fun
you're
to
outlining.
watch.
Yeah, basically what you're outlining though is that he's not hindering their ability to play.
No,
He's contributing, and right now, and to be fair, thank you. His shot, because of how accurate it still is a weapon. It's like no. Just we don't want him to be seen as passing him the puck too much, Eric. But his slap shot is still lethal from that position, and if he's open, don't pass him the puck. Wait a minute, Eric. If it's almost an automatic that he can put it on net and at least give you a shot at scoring, do you not pass the guy the puck?
No, you do. You got to be smart about it. And obviously, and I was, I've watched a couple of the games and this season with him, and listened to some of the commentary. And yeah, if you're a team that are only focused on your captain, your leader, your superstar achieving a record, you're not going to, achieve your team goals. The record has to take a back seat to the ultimate team goal, which is, having a good season, getting into the playoffs, doing well in the playoffs, winning a Stanley Cup, right? That's the team goal. One can help the other because he's so good, such an important part of the team, so talented. He's definitely not ready to, go to the farm and be shot yet. He's still one of the best players in the world. But if every shift is all we're trying to do is be offensive and get Ovi the puck, you're not going to win games. You're not going to get your ultimate goals. So you have to find that happy medium, and I think they're doing pretty well. Their record's pretty good right now. So they're a playoff team, which is number one. So if they were like a 500 club and they weren't, heading in the right direction, and all they were doing was feeding him every shift, I think, it needs to be addressed.
So I pulled
Right
up
now, as it is, it's working.
I pulled up the team stats, and they have 7 players with over 100 shots on the season. They have an 8th that's at 94 shots, and they have 4 players that are 20 and above goal scoring. They have another one at 18 and one at 17. So, Obi's carrying a load. He's leading in goals at 29. The next guy is at 26 goals, which I think is Tom Wilson.
Yeah, it is.
Regardless, your point though is it's a balanced attack.
Yeah,
There are
around.
multiple
Like, it's
guys.
not just all him. They're spreading.
Yeah, you're
it
not just
around.
relying on one person, one shot. But my key point, just key takeaway, just so that we cover that, is that as long as he's not a liability out there, as long as he still contribute, as long as you have that shot and you can, if they want to leave him open and he's got a clean shot at the net and you're like, we can get him the puck and get him what's the worst that happens? You get a rebound. Because if he's shooting accurately, you give yourself a chance to get a rebound. That allows one of the other guys to potentially be able to take advantage of it too. So it's a weapon. It's something you can use to your advantage. Late career, Brett Hull was that. He was a guy you set up. He had his spot. And if he was open, you pass him the puck. You say, yeah, fire it off. Because guess what? One of two things happens. Either the goal goes in right there or you get a rebound. And if that's the case, you give yourself a chance. The name of the game is to score the goal, regardless of how you accomplish this task. So if you've got somebody who can do it, there's a lot of guys who can shoot 1,000 shots and they're not going to hit the broad side of the net. So
and Brett Hull
if you can't
playing defense yesterday to get that empty netter either.
Yeah. So right now, as far as I'm concerned, I think Ovechkin is carrying his weight. He's playing very well, especially late career, given where he is at this stage in his career and this way this season played out. It's been very impressive.
You're talking about his shot and everything. So this is kind of crazy. And obviously it could change by the end of the season, but
shooting
his
percentage.
shooting percentage. You were talking about how it's still accurate and still, he's still hitting.
This year he's been ridiculously accurate.
It's his best season ever. He's at 18.8% shooting.
Yeah.
So it's his best season ever by far. Over 3%.
So if you remember a couple of years ago, he started off, he was in single digits in goals through like 45, 50 games. And it was like, oh crap.
2 seasons ago, yeah.
Yeah. And it looked like, oh, well, I guess he's washed up. It's done now. And then he had the late season surge to kind of bring it back. But the thing is, traditionally he's a volume shooter. And there were a handful of articles that were doing the analysis and they were going like, yeah, but you know what? His shooting percentage is down. He is shooting, but the stuff that normally goes in is not going in. Sometimes it's bad luck and bad bounces. And then in the second half, it's suddenly the stuff that wasn't working suddenly started going in. And when it started going in, it went in bunches.
Yeah.
And that's how the numbers kind of evened out by the end of the season. He ended up, I think, at 32 goals by the time it was done.
Yeah, that must have been last season because he had 11.
It was last season.
11.4%. He took 272 shots and only scored 31 goals.
Yeah. And 272 shots, by the way, is also low for him because he's normally a high volume shooter traditionally. In years past, he would be a 300-400 shot guy. And he'd be a big volume shooter and put a ton of shots on net. So when he's doing his regular stuff this year, he's been efficient, which for him is very good. And he came off to the blazing hot start, which all of a sudden it's like, all right, that's the opposite of last season. So, hey, regardless. All right. Enough Ovechkin praise. Remember, all of his cards are going down. Don't buy them. Hashtag divest.
Exactly.
Hashtag divest.
Yeah,
Just important. Hashtag divest. All right. So real quick, I wanted to touch on the WhatNot thing. I'll quickly give you guys the lay of the land. You guys know the story more or less. I did a video on it that dropped earlier today that we're recording. I recorded it last night. There was one more thing that I'll add that wasn't in my original video, but I'll touch on it. So WhatNot, it came across my radar on the Discord and also some social media posts. And it was basically that WhatNot had taken away the kind of the replay of a lot of the video on demand, the VODs, for a lot of their breaking. Now, I covered that at high level on that video. Got some good engagement on it, by the way, which I'm going to touch on also in a minute. But important thing was that my concern that I outlined in that video is I'm not using WhatNot. So at the end of the day, it's not going to affect me, quote unquote. But we talk about breaking in one sense, and we talk about a lot of things in the hobby. We want transparency, this, transparency, that. With breaking, transparency is super important. And one point that Brendan made before we were hitting record is that part of the reason how breaking has developed is that a breaker who is known as being good, a lot of them have multiple camera angles. Why? Because the audience wants to be able to see your hands. They want to be able to see where the cards are. They want to be able to see where the boxes are, because the more camera angles you can provide, it provides a comfort to be able to see everything at all times. And that way, if there's an issue, you can go back to the tape and you've got multiple angles to be able to see where, if something weird happens, but it's visibly available, and you can be like, oh no, the guy just dropped something, but you can see it the whole way. You feel a lot more comfortable than if it goes off screen. If it goes off screen is where weird stuff happens and people feel very uncomfortable. VODs are good for, like, let's say you buy into a break. So I'm giving you the scenario first. Let's say you buy into a break, but it takes a while to fill. I don't have all day. I got stuff to do, right? But then you say to yourself, if it's a breaker you trust and the VODs are there, you can go back and watch the break and skim through, and you can see, all right, they pulled this card for me, this card for me, this. So you can make sure that what you get is actually what was pulled for you. You can make sure the correct things are what arrives. It's that extra info. It's an audit. It's a way to be able to audit to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting, because you can go back and watch it. Now, one piece that wasn't in my video that I'm hearing a little bit about, I will keep checking in with folks. I haven't fully corroborated it, but I've been hearing it from some different folks, is that apparently if you do buy into breaks on WhatNot, and we'll come back to WhatNot here in a second, but apparently if you buy breaks into WhatNot, you'll have a receipt, and that receipt gives you, if you're buying an item, like say an auction, it should give you a clip that'll show the specific bid, you winning the bid or whatever, if it's an item. But supposedly, one of the statements that some people were saying is that if you buy into a break and it's tagged appropriately as a break, apparently the tag is an important caveat, but if it's tagged appropriately, presumably as a person who bought in, you're still supposed to have access to the VOD, which is good. That's good. That's better than nothing. But my concern, and I'll start with you, Eric, on this. So just to outline my concern, I'm not using the platform, so at the end of the day, whatever. However, in a land that the transparency is so important, if you're a breaker who takes your business seriously, you want people to be able to see the VODs, because that way they can get a comfort level with you. They can get a comfort level with your style. And that way they feel like you're above board and transparent on everything. Like if you're one of those folks, I'm going out of my way to put the VODs on YouTube or something, to be like, hey, by the way, guys, regardless of this policy, I'm going to make sure you can still see all the VODs, because to me, that's a feature. As a breaker, I'm going to make sure you can still see that stuff because it helps me. But it's a bad look for WhatNot to, on the cusp of the backyard breaks and all your inaction with that, to do something that allows people to sneak into the background. Because what happened with the backyard break, the most recent, people were able to pull that clip and play it and share it and do all this stuff. If you're not involved in the break and you can't see the VOD, how are you ever going to get footage of the shadiness if someone isn't recording everything or isn't involved in the break in order to actually get access to the VOD? It's hiding things. It's creating the scenario where a breaker can hide things, whereas before it was more available, you just made it less available. Not impossible, because as I said, there may be some caveats there, but you made it a lot easier for somebody to get away with something if only a handful of people saw it. They can tell you about it, but you can't see it. Did it really happen, Eric? Was it a mirage? Was it an illusion? I don't like that, because it removes the transparency thing we were just talking about. So I want to start with you, get some thoughts, and then I want to shift over to Brandon. Go ahead.
Well, you're 100% right when it comes to the transparency of the breaks, and where the cards are on the table, and if one somehow falls off the table, and because we've seen all that, right? We've seen the sleight of hand and people trying to screw customers over. But I don't think this has anything to do with that. Okay, this is 100%. WhatNot got absolutely destroyed in public opinion over what happened with backyard breaks. And the number one way they got destroyed was people could just go download that video, post it, and spread it. This was a PR hit like WhatNot has never had. And they've had some PR hits, but this was the biggest one they ever had. And they realized that them allowing people to come and get recorded video of these situations, these instances, was bad for them. Okay, that is why they're doing this now. They do not care about the sleight of hand. They don't care about any of that. They care about the PR hit they took and the fact that their own policies were used against them. And they are going to attempt to not have their own policies try to destroy their company again. So now, if Joe Average is watching any break, they have to record the break on their computer or their phone. So if something like what happens again, they'll have it. If not, it possibly could be, depending on how this goes. I did hear what you said about if you're in the break, that maybe that you'll have access to it or not.
Yeah, it seems to be based on what some folks are saying. I'll get confirmation. I'll ask around, but I'll get some confirmation.
Some folks are saying, well, I want to know what WhatNot is doing, not what some folks are saying.
So Eric, real quick, that's one of my problems with this, just so we're all clear. My problem is that I have to go to third parties because WhatNot doesn't tell me anything. Right. When I did that video, I went to their help page. At least I was able to see the help page and I was able to quote you, but that's the only thing directly from WhatNot. Everything else, I have to go with anecdotal evidence because the only way I can be sure is someone who's using the platform and can confirm what buttons are there and what buttons aren't there. That's the only way that I can get, because WhatNot isn't telling me a thing.
And they don't want to. They shot themselves in the foot by being transparent and honest and having this, this system in place. It ended up hurting them. So what's the first thing they're going to do? They're going to get rid of that so they can't be hurt again in the future when some absolute asshat clown piece of shit behaves that way. You can't then just go back like on a show like ours to say, hey, let's go get that and use it on our show to show everybody what's going on over there. And then promote the fact that WhatNot isn't doing what they should be doing. They're not handling the situation correctly. And this breaker is an asshat piece of shit.
I feel that Eric has feelings about this, Brandon, but I want to get your thoughts on this. And then I want to show off something that, of course, is thematically appropriate given what happened there. But I want to start up. So please, you first.
First of all, my thoughts on taking away the replay or whatever.
Or at least making it more difficult. If nothing else, making it more difficult to get to. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we can call it whatever, however they wind up doing it, but it's total bullshit.
Sure.
I have been doing bulk submissions for grading for 5+ years now. And the one thing that I've always done with them is record going out and record when they come back. People might think, oh, you're just doing that for the videos. You're just doing that for, whatever. The main reason I ever started doing that was so everybody could be confident in seeing what was leaving and then when it came back. There's been the little chatter of, people swapping cards, this and that. So it also protected my ass if there was ever an argument or a question, or if someone's card got damaged. That video has been useful in going back and looking at them before they went out. So that's number one. I highly believe in video so you can go and play back. But I want to read this because I was curious.
Sure.
This is Google's AI overview thing, WhatNot net worth 2024. So it says as of January, they have a valuation of $4.97 billion. They have some investors. Their valuation in 2024 is based on an estimated revenue of $359 million, which is a 102% increase from the previous year. They've raised about $746 million in total funding since its founding. But here's the interesting part. WhatNot's plans. WhatNot plans to use the new funding to A, hire more engineers, B, expand into new countries and categories, C, repurchase up to 72 million in shares. But here's the kicker. Invest in customer experience including seller tools, market expansion, and trust and safety. That's a key one because they said that they didn't have server space is allegedly the excuse for this change.
Yeah.
But they're going to put on here that they want to use funding for trust and safety. And to me, this is doing the ass opposite of that and putting more question marks on a platform that is already getting black eyes out the ass from just the scams that happen on there, the people that are stealing or whatever else, the statements that were made. Because let's not forget, the whole uproar of the recent thing was probably beyond some of the other shit, well beyond other stuff. And it wasn't anything to do with someone's card getting stolen or anything like that. It was comments that were made.
Ass hat piece of shit.
Yes. Now, my other big concern of this is, and I've never been on there and like purchased and all that stuff. I went on and like browsed and watched some, but I'm not a formidable user and things may have changed. I don't know how it all works. But I do believe I've seen at a time where breaks were sold like individually, like spots were sold individually. And
Yeah.
you mentioned that the stream has to be tagged as a break, or if you purchase an
That's my
item,
understanding. Yeah,
you
that's my
get a
understanding.
clip.
Mhm.
So what stops these breakers from just selling the spots to where the buyers only get the clip of where they bought their team, and then the breaker's like, okay, the break's full, and then they just run the break while the purchasers are assuming that everything's a-okay because they got their receipt clip of where they purchased the team. Because I know people get on there and just have like social time or whatever. They'll get on there and just chat with people trying to build their audience and stuff. So what would stop them? It's not like, okay, you sold 30 spots. Now the live stream ends. You can't do nothing else. They could literally sell the 30 spots and then get the case and open it up or the box or whatever. And that part be unrecorded, undocumented.
Yeah.
Because the
So
spots
to your
are
point.
sold.
Yeah, so to your point, that's why I say I want to find out some more from the folks. Like I said, WhatNot isn't going to tell us anything, so that's where I have to rely on folks that do use the platform more regularly to be able to give me a little more information. So I will try to reach out and see if I can get some info. To your point, that's where when I heard about that tagging thing, that's an interesting one because if you don't put it on there, it makes you now number one, if you're the person who wouldn't do that, then I would question the kind of business you're operating in the first place. That's why I said a little earlier, and to me, that's why I said to you, Brandon and Eric, if I'm a legitimate business on there, I would actually go out of my way to be like, hey guys, by the way, I don't care what they're doing. I'm going to download all these VODs, and right here you can see the VODs because that's a feature. To me, that's a selling point to be like, you can trust me because I'm actually going to provide you so you can watch the thing in its entirety and check out everything. I'm providing that to you so you can watch it anytime you want.
Or here's a suggestion, and if by chance anybody that watches this podcast happens to sell on WhatNot, if you legitimately want to run a clean, honest, honorable selling platform, breaking, whatever you want to call it, you can multi-stream your live, your live selling or whatever. I know this is possible because I know resellers that do it. You can multi-stream it to YouTube.
You can, yeah.
Now you can't the people watching on your YouTube channel, they can't buy it or
they can't buy
anything like that. But you would at least then be providing evidence of every damn thing you're doing on a platform that's not going to take it away.
That's great. Yep. That's a great suggestion.
Yeah,
and
and plus, if you're monetized or whatever, you can earn some revenue from the video stream.
Yeah, and that's trying to show people that you're trying to be as honest and transparent as possible, and to announce that before every live stream really kicks in and say, hey, I just want to remind people that we're doing live on this is the reason why.
It'll be back, it'll be on YouTube once we're done. Here's the YouTube, whatever.
Do this anymore, so we're doing this, so we're open and transparent, and that's going to make me as a buyer a lot more comfortable that someone saying, hey, I am doing this extra step to out myself if I screw up.
Yep.
I mean, I like that, right?
Yeah,
Not
I don't know if anybody's mentioned that, but I do know you can
no,
multi-stream,
that's great.
and
There's a
'cause
reseller. There's
I
a
watch
reseller on YouTube that
resellers
I watch.
that do
Yeah,
it.
there's one on YouTube that I specifically follow who did a live actually yesterday, and my notification was on YouTube. I
Yeah,
don't follow them on WhatNot, but it was a WhatNot stream that went live on YouTube at the same time. Exactly
yep.
the scenario you just played out. So I could
Yeah,
literally
you
just
can't
watch it on YouTube.
purchase on there.
Yeah,
It'll have a QR code that you
yeah,
could scan to take you to their Whatnot
yeah,
page, and then you could go on there to buy. But the purpose that I mentioned this is if they are multi-streaming like that, at least there is then a recorded scenario. Now, if Whatnot would have came out and said, "Hey, we provide this multi-streaming thing, and we suggest our users set this up or whatever to give." The playback, we're running into issues with the amount of users and our service, whatever. Okay, fine. It might have been a little BS and the timing's a little off, but at least then you're directing people and saying, hey, we suggest you do this. This is
yeah.
a good option. But I didn't see nothing mentioned of that in any statements or anything because again, their PR sucks.
Yeah,
So
the biggest criticism I have above all else, not specifically to one incident, but the biggest criticism I have, the category that I would put it under, is lack of communication. Lack
mhm.
of like, you would get so much more goodwill if you would actually proactively say things and explain yourself. Like give your, to me, the timing was really bad on top because it leads to the suspicions. The first thing that happens is that you go say, "Oh, you had the thing with the backyard breaks where you guys got demolished because people had playback of this that they could pass, and you just turned off easy access to playback on future issue. If another issue comes up, it will be that much harder for people to
Mhm.
get those clips and be able to circulate. It's a
And
bad look coming right after.
they're honestly, this sucks to say, but we've talked about so many negative things and so many scams and so much that happens, and people continue to get more and more creative in the way that they scam, the way that they steal, all of that, right? You are now opening doors by creating more opportunity for people to figure out how to screw people over. That's the
Yeah,
worst, that's a bad part of it too, is you're now giving them the option to find new ways to screw people over, and then no way for a lot of these folks to even be able to go back and expose it happening. So it takes away a lot of the transparency.
yep, exactly. And that to me is the number one. So to put a button on it, my biggest issue is not the mechanics, the specifics. And again, I hear some information that there may be ways to get that in, but the point is you're making more hoops. Let me just put it that way. You're making it more difficult. You're forcing other people to have to take extra steps in order to do what was previously available. And if you're a legitimate seller on that platform, it actually makes you look shady by association because it's around you. So as more people will do stuff around you, it becomes harder for you to be in that platform.
It's already hard. Like the main
Yeah.
thing that I hear about that platform is building an audience.
Hmm.
And if you're like a new seller on there and you're not familiar with like, it could take time for someone to get used to the platform and everything else. And people having confidence that you're a good seller, you're a good breaker or whatever, having that trust and that faith in you, it can that comes with time. Well, now if you're putting a barrier in there for those people, that's going to make it even more difficult for them to build that, get that trust and everything built up, which then becomes more complicated to even build a following, to build an
Hmm.
audience, because you're
Yeah,
just
for sure.
adding question marks to the buyer experience.
Yeah, makes sense. So real quick before, because I want to go off of that negative thing that you just talked about, but before I do, I want to make a note, kind of one thing that I mentioned in the video, kind of, and also in some of the comments. And I thank everybody. The comments and engagement were really good. I'm going to come back to the comments and engagement in a moment because I wanted to touch on it. But one of the things that I kind of alluded to in one of the comments is that this situation opens the door for your competitors, because in this space there are competitors, and there are some of them vying for position, including Fanatics Live, who is very well capitalized. The Fanatics overlords have a couple of dollars to throw around. Well, I want to showcase for you a post on Fanatics Live Instagram. So I want to specifically key in on this, and it'll play into what we were just talking about in a certain way. We'll have a little fun with this one. So this is exactly, just so we're clear, this is a post on their Instagram. I will leave a link to it in the description so you can see it for yourself. So let me read it to you. It says, so I'll read what it says here. It says, whether you miss out on your break or you just want to relive an epic stream moment, Fanatics Live has you covered with the replays option. This post was made 8 hours ago.
Yeah.
It was made today. Eric, how convenient.
Yeah.
That we have the,
do you notice that the word replay is in capital letters?
yes. And do you notice that, though, that the clip there on the front is pro tip?
Yeah, pro tip.
If you want to relive, replay feature, which allows collectors to rewatch streams, fire emoji, Eric, fire emoji.
Yeah. Good for them. And
it's smart. This, Brandon, is smart market. You look, they fumbled the ball. You're the one. Then you say, all right, you want to fumble the ball? We're going to pick it up. Why not? You may as well.
Yeah, good for them. And I'm not. And listen, and we've always joked that if they come with the check, we're all in with the Fanatics over.
Oh, totally, will sell out so hard.
But until they showed up with the check, I have no problem bashing them when they need to bash. So, but this is a good move.
It's even funny that there's the other platform that's becoming quite the competitor, but District, which has a bunch of different marketplaces inside of there, and there's live selling and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, if you go to live streams, it literally has right there previous, and you see there was 88 of them for this marketplace, and they're all right there that you can scroll through. And they're a smaller, newer marketplace, and they're even offering it. So
yeah, but the bottom line though is that like WhatNot is shooting itself in the foot repeatedly here, and this is to me an unforced error. There's actually nobody was putting a gun to your head other than maybe you're concerned that certain people on the platform may cause you issues that you may be trying to protect indirectly with this. Again, just allegedly, I'm just throwing out a theory.
Here's the problem. You set standards, you set rules, you set policies that were very clearly and distinctly written. But then you don't follow through with the punishment of the policies,
right,
in a very stern manner.
No, because
you're going to pick and choose. Because exactly. So that's when you set yourself up for having to make these stupid choices. Because when you're allowing shit on your site, then you have to find a way to cover your own ass. And that's what they're doing right now, because they didn't want to take the steps to initiate their policies to start with. So now they're trying to find the Band-Aid and a different solution to appease people and avoid it from happening again.
Sure, I think that's fair. But I think the bottom line though is it is short-sighted because it doesn't actually fix your problem in the long run. All you did was tell everybody that you shouldn't be trusted. You told everyone that you shouldn't be trusted. You sent the message out. Again, in my opinion, in our opinion, all of this stuff is really opinion more than anything else. Like I said, and I'm not being definitive. I'm not saying definitively this is my thing is this is something that if you sat in a room and pitched it to me, I'd be like, guys, even if you wanted to do this, now is not the time. It's too soon, way too soon. On the heels of where you ran into a problem here, you don't want to be following it up with it. This is not your follow-up move.
And just to be clear, because I had seen that there was some, and I know you wanted to touch a little bit on it, but
yeah,
there was some comments going around about, oh, you're just trying to find every opportunity to bash, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. I want to make it very clear. Carlos, to my knowledge, does not go on live selling platforms and sell nor buy. I do not go on live selling platforms and sell or buy. And pretty sure Eric isn't on any live selling platforms selling or buying. So this is coming from.
Let's just be clear, because we want to be honest. I had a WhatNot account.
Oh, I have an account, but
no, so I would go on and support my friends, like
so
Amanda
nothing. Okay.
and my friend Chris, that that did shows, and I have purchased things from them through that platform. But since this situation with Backyard and Whatnot's failure and continued failure in the aftermath, I have deleted that account and I will no longer be on it.
Sure. So
But
let
I
me read a
just
couple
want to
of.
make sure we're clear. I have been on that account. I have purchased things. They were only from people I knew and friends I was supporting. But yes, I have been on it. But I have not been on any other type of platform like that, not used. And I've never been in a break in my life and never will.
Yeah. By contrast, I have been in a number of breaks, but I prefer to do them with folks that do it on YouTube. That's a personal preference thing. I have no issue. I said in my video, I have no issue with breaks at all because I know some folk. Now, a lot of the breaks honestly started either on YouTube, and some of them start off with Facebook groups I'm in. Like in the AEW Facebook group I'm in, one of the moderator of the group, will buy a case and be like, all right, folks, we can divide it on whatever. Here are the characters, and this is how much it is. And they're based out of Canada. I met up with them at the expo. They dropped off my cards. Last expo we were at, they literally brought the cards to me. And I had a chat with him and his wife, and like I've at least had correspondence with them back and forth. And they do it, but all the VODs are on YouTube. They're all on the YouTube channel. You can watch them in their entirety. We'll hang out in the chat. We'll BS a little bit and then watch and whatever. So it's very clear cut, but it's not like big scale. It's a case here, a case there as they get product in and as they want to do it. So I don't have a hesitation to participate in breaks, but I just prefer to participate in breaks with people I'm at least comfortable with, or that I have, some background with, or small stakes. The WhatNot platform has never really worked for me in terms of what it is, and also just literally I can't use it at different times. It's one of those things where even prior to a lot of these issues, I had my own issues with the platform itself, the actual physical platform. So it's clunky for me. But I understand a lot of people do buy stuff on it, so I acknowledge that. Real quick, I wanted to read a couple of comments and then touch on one thing that'll shift over, and then we'll conclude on that topic. A couple of comments from the video that I did. So one of them was Angel Claudio here, who said, you as a buyer can use the clip button to record your purchases. So that's one of the folks that came back to me with that, which is fine. I appreciate the feedback, again. So any additional information, clarification, please, by all means. I'm not claiming to know everything on WhatNot. I watch WhatNot breaks and stuff just as an observer, but I don't actively use the platform. So if there's more information, feel free to fill us in. Happy to learn more about it. But yeah, for me, I appreciate the clarification. So Mega Monkey Chunk, great name.
Oh.
I don't think WhatNot will go bankrupt. So that in reference to the Run Good Life comment on that, it says there's enough gambling addicts who overlook scammers stealing their cards, which is fair. I agreed with that general statement. I said no problem. The bankruptcy thing was the social media post that I talked about. I did use eBay as an example of removing some of the transparency around the bidders. We had kind of a discussion about it, but at the end of the day, people kind of moved on. It wasn't the end of the world, and eBay is also a much bigger platform. eBay's got other issues. That's not the biggest one. There's other issues and things we can complain about, but I still, just in general, as a general theme, I don't like you taking visibility away from me from information. Right. If I can have access to more information, it's better. And I don't think that's a controversial take. I like having access to more info, if at all possible. So I don't think that's anything too wild there.
I want transparency on everything.
Yeah, as much as possible. The more, the better for me. That's just a personal preference thing. Yep. Breakers HQ here says maybe they're moving away from breaking the sports and sports card scams. Like, I doubtful of that, but again, I appreciate the comment. Either way, I appreciate the engagement. So I wanted to thank him for that. Wesker Griff, so Ed commented on this. Pretty wild if people after this change in policy still continue supporting WhatNot and getting the breaks on there. They will. There's plenty of defenders out there still. Can't wrap my head around it, but thanks for sharing the info, Carlos. So thank you to Ed for the comment. Bob Jackson, friend of the channel and also participates in the live streams. As someone that has recently started watching WhatNot, there are a lot of unscrupulous sellers on there. They will straight up lie to potential buyers' faces about the values of things constantly while running 5 to 10 second auctions. So in this case, we didn't spend too much time talking about that. That is something I've seen as well. So the point, though, is WhatNot compounds these issues on top of each other. There's a lot of things on that platform I don't like about the way they run their business, and they haven't done much to protect. So my response really was this. There definitely isn't much in the way of safeguards. So that's the way I'll present it. Not much in the way of safeguards. Removing another one isn't exactly what the doctor ordered. That was a very succinct way of me just saying, don't remove safeguards when we're already worried about you guys not doing the right thing. Don't take
I-
away guardrails.
I
More
actually
guardrails are
have been
needed.
surprised at how crazy the platform has gotten and the things that have happened on there. Because when I am onboarded as a seller and all that, but I have never done any sales or anything on there. It was probably it was around early times of whatnot starting.
Sure.
And the amount of rules that they had, like nobody can go without receiving an item, like at least one item. So, like if you bought into a break and your team didn't hit anything, you still were supposed to send the person something.
Sure.
No like gamble games and all this other shit. Like they had all these specific rules on there. And if you weren't like didn't follow them, you were supposedly banned. And
Yeah.
yet it just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And I was just like,
Yeah,
well,
roulette wheels, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, almost every one of the things you just named off have all been done. I have definitely
that's
seen
what I'm
streams that
saying.
have
It's like,
violated every single one of those rules.
why did y'all have this whole process of like bringing these people on these Zoom calls or whatever to onboard them and go over all these rules and everything else? It was like just for show. It's literally the Wild West on there, and freaking anything goes. You know, it's crazy. So
Well, on that note, yeehaw. So let's move on. Real quick, what I wanted to touch on that kind of was a branch off of this. And Victor, the rookie card specialist, had a video. It wasn't related to whatnot. So I'm going to borrow some stuff from what I just talked about, but I'm going to carry it over. He was talking about specifically Victor Wembanyama and the whole injury thing and everything, and kind of pertaining to, you know, the thumbnail literally says it's not news. What he's talking about is the amount of videos talking about the Victor thing and kind of having kind of a negative spin. And the reason I can kind of tie the two is that some of the commentary, not of mine, because I just went over some of the comments, and I thought for the most part, Eric, the comments I thought were fair. People either gave some additional context or offered their opinion, made for some good conversation, a little bit of back and forth. I appreciate it. It was very good. But obviously Neo did his video as well. I think we dropped our videos at the same time. Obviously Neo is a lot more known for breaking news kind of stuff and everything. So his comment section is very actively engaged and very strongly engaged. Let's just say very strongly engaged. But it makes for some interesting reading if you check out the comment section, because there are some folks who, again, Victor's talking about the Wembanyama thing, but he's talking about, like, you know, why are we having so many videos? And I'm paraphrasing, but it's like we've got all these videos that are making predictions and things about Victor, and like now that he's got this injury, you know, his cards are going to zero and all that very dramatic stuff. We've always got the dramatic stuff in there. However, on the other side of it, talking about the whatnot thing, you had some people that were kind of defending whatnot from the perspective as like, well, you know, you guys are just haters and you're trying to take the company down. I'm paraphrasing, but the general idea is that by posting negative things, whether they're true or not, is like you're hurting, and also you're kind of basically just dogpiling. So there's kind of two questions that I have off of this. What, if anything, is the responsibility? What's the balance here between, if something bad happens and it's worthwhile, and you're especially if you're a channel that actually covers it. I'll touch on the odd one here and there. I pick and choose my battles because I'm not paying attention to everything. That one came across my desk and literally I saw it, and I did have a definite opinion about it. So I offered my opinion. But I'm not going to have an opinion on every single thing in the hobby, or we can talk about it on Friday. Like, I could have waited until Friday and so we could have still talked about it. We're talking about it right now. But in this case, I had a thought that came off of my initial reading of it, my initial quick dig into it. So I offered it. Neo offered his. Other people will no doubt offer it in the coming hours or the coming days. We'll hear more about it, I'm sure. But the point is that if you're the 57th video to talk about it, is there additional value to that? I have a thought on that. I want to share it. But before that, I'm going to ask you guys. And then the second question I have is about the repetition of the content. Like, at a certain point, what additional value is there to it? Is it just to get the clicks and everything? Or should people be making those videos once a certain amount of, once there's enough saturation? Is there a point at which maybe you don't need to make the 87th video on this? So just two kind of open-ended questions. Anybody want to take this one? Go ahead, Eric.
Unlike both of you, I do not watch a lot of card content on YouTube. Okay, I have 2 or 3 things that maybe I'll check in with if they have, something interesting that they're claiming to be talking about. I just don't have the time for it, and so I don't. Therefore, if 57 channels are telling the same story, I'm not going to know that, because I'm only paying attention to the 2 or 3 that maybe I check in with every now and then. So I think if you're doing a channel and a news story comes up, I think you should cover it to the best of your ability, because you have your audience, and they may not get their information from one of the other 57 channels. They might just come to you, or they may just have 3 people that they check in with. And if they're anything like me that only pays attention to a couple of people, I am interested in what their take is on, the news stories. Guys like you, Carlos, especially you, who kind of scans YouTube and checks out all these different things and gets the take from this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. I could see that it'd be like, all right, there's 57 channels. Everyone's doing the same story on the same day, Wednesday, when it came out, and each one's doing a 45-minute review on it. That's saturated. I would never know that.
Sure.
It would never come across my screen that 57 channels did the same story. So it depends on how you watch YouTube, how you get your hobby news, and where you go and how many places you go. So that's my take.
I have a follow-up on that, but Brandon, do you want to add anything there?
So I don't hunt out content. I don't watch a ton of card content anymore either. In fact, a lot of the news and stuff, I actually find it more enjoyable when it hits the Discord and the conversations are happening. And
Sure.
like we're discussing it and giving in, whatever, bouncing things back and forth, or, whatever. But so in that sense, I think also it's because I'm not my channel. I've like the newsy stuff I would normally do would be like SGC updates and stuff. I was never one that had my Twitter alerts and Instagram alerts and all this of all these different corporate accounts and everything to try to get the breaking news up and talk about it. But what really gets me is the interesting part of some of the comments that I've seen that have been shared around the negative side of, well, you're just trying to bash whatnot or whatever. When I distinctly remember, several years ago, I would have people like messaging me or commenting me, on videos, being like, hey, did you hear about this? Or what's your opinion on it? And want a video with an opinion or like about a topic that was going on. And now it's like, are we such a saturated space that people feel there's too many people talking about it? Because there are a lot of, well, the creator 1, 2, 3, and it follows the line, and then everybody's talking about why are they doing that? Well, it's very simple. It's the hot topic. It hits the algorithm. It catches the views, and many of the content creators are doing YouTube to try to earn revenue, right? Simple. It's not a secret. So if it's something hot, you're going to get the 57 people doing it because that's what people are clicking on and watching during that time. Are they copying each other? Maybe at times. Are they talking about the same thing? Are their opinions? Are they repetitive? Pretty much. But guess what? So is most of your 5 o'clock news. It's just on different channels,
Yeah.
And here's the other side to it. If you don't want to watch, like, this is the best part, okay? If you think that someone's opinion is just bashing something, or you see the thumbnail you see the title. Why in the hell are you taking the time to sit there and click on it and watch it, and then taking the extra time to leave the comments about it? That's what blows my mind. Like, if it's something I don't care about, or if I don't care about the person's opinion, I'm not wasting the time to click and watch and listen. Like, it's just simple.
Yep.
Most of my YouTube absorption is background noise when I'm working throughout the day.
Sure.
I'm not that involved in it.
Yeah, I think it's fair. So I wanted to get both your takes on it, just to start off with. So I'll offer a couple of things. As you heard, I went over a couple of the comments that were in that comment section. Like I said, my comment section was quite good. I feel like people had at least something to contribute, or they had some thoughts and they shared them with me. And for a couple of them, I went back and forth with them, and it was good conversation. So I was very pleased with it. In the spirit of like transparency, since we do love our transparency, um, for me, I pick and choose my stories that I'll cover. I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not Dustin. I'm not Neo. I'm not going to try to cover everything. There are certain ones that are interesting to me. This is one that is interesting to me from the angle that we talked about today. To me, it was a strange or bad decision based on our conversation that we're talking about here, especially on the heels of other stuff that WhatNot had already done. If you were not, and we'll use a hockey analogy since we've done a lot of hockey today, Eric. So congratulations, we're getting a lot of hockey today. If you're a repeat offender, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Whereas maybe you're a person who's a clean citizen, you've been good, so something happens and you've got maybe a mitigating circumstance, or hey, you know what, that wasn't intentional, or I was skating fast, I was looking the wrong way, and something happened. But if you've got a spotless record, yeah, you're still probably going to get an infraction, but you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. They'll be like, okay, fine, we'll mitigate, mitigating circumstances, we'll give you some. But if this is like the 14th time that something has happened and it's just a repeated thing with you, well, then we're going to look at that track record and we're going to say, okay, you know what? You're not getting the benefit of the doubt. And it might have been an accident. This might have been the time, Eric. This might have been the actual one where you actually didn't intentionally do it. And it turns out it was an accident. But the problem is you already have this track record of all this other stuff.
Right.
You're not going to be given the benefit of the doubt. I can't give it to you. Even if I wanted to, I can't trust that this is the time you actually are on the up and up. The point is, with WhatNot, we're at that stage. We're at the repeat offender stage. So at this point, every time something happens, it's just adding to your resume of stuff. So for me, it's an interesting topic. What's funny is that Neo and I actually dropped the videos, I think, right around the same time. I actually, again, in transparency's sake, I saw the initial post. I actually recorded it overnight. So we're recording this on a Monday. I recorded that video at like 12:20 in the morning. The video is under 10 minutes. It might have taken me 11 minutes to record it. I pretty much did it in one take. Just basically, I went through it. Like, it wasn't an overly complicated story to me, Brandon. I went over the piece. I took the two tabs. I had the one tab for the social media post. I found the thing on WhatNot's website. I did like a 5-minute Google search, found a couple of things. I thought, okay, that's interesting. That corroborates the other piece. So I put the two parts together, put the two tabs, did a quick screen grab, put on my microphone and recorded it, put it up in the editor machine. But since I only had to cut out a couple of pieces where I repeated myself and I took that out. The video took me almost no time to create. Here's the thing. News does pick up more clicks.
Mm-hmm.
That video did not go viral for me by any stretch of the imagination. Neo's video went to a much bigger audience and exploded out there. It's already at thousands of views. My video is like 120 views, which isn't terrible. But at the same time, people were engaged in it. Like, they were leaving comments. I appreciated that. The engagement was good. So for me, it was good. But let's put it this way. In under half a day, it had twice as many views as my last mail day.
Yeah, I
People
mean,
don't really care. Like, mail days are mail days, but a newsy story where there's a little bit to sink your teeth into or discuss or debate a little bit is genuinely more interesting for most people.
yeah, I mean, I've gotten back into the routine and having some fun with doing the content, but it's been all like sharing the collection, and I'll toss in a little bit of opinions, or maybe like, the one I did this evening, just talking about something, but they don't pick up as much views. And you
Yeah.
mentioned a keyword, the engagement.
Yeah.
One thing that I enjoy about the videos is when people comment and you can have that conversation. Like,
Yeah.
we're actually discussing the hobby. That's why I like the podcast format, why I brought this up You know, we've been doing this now for I don't even know how many weeks in a row. But anyway, the discussion, the talk, you know, the talk, the communication part of it. It's not. I can't speak on everyone's behalf. I could have easily just kept my channel of doing previews and reveals for bulk submissions. I could have let it die off and just do that. Those get, you know, 100, 200 views, whatever, when I do them. It's not about the views and everything anymore. If I wanted my channel to go that route, I would have done everything differently from the beginning. You know, I would have, during the pandemic when it was growing, I would have done more of the hot button newsy topics. And I never really got into that. You know, Neo made a comment one time a long time ago. I don't remember what, if it was alive or we might have even been on with him. I don't remember. But he said something about if you want your channel to grow and if you want to make revenue off of it, most times you have to do the videos you may not necessarily enjoy doing. And that is the drama and the news and all that stuff. I really, a lot of the stuff that people are like Dustin and him are doing videos on, I really, and nothing against them, but I don't care about the topics. Like, it's not affecting me. I could give two shits less. It's nothing new. You know, it's just not interesting to me. So I don't want to sit and record a video. I don't want to be tied down and have to feel like I have to do a video every day. I don't want to be that committed. I want to do it for fun, right? When you start getting that commitment space, that's when it becomes a job. And I
Mhm.
don't want that, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just do it for fun. I enjoy the people who take the time and comment. I like getting on here bullshitting with you guys when I'm able to, getting on Fridays and, you know, talking with the chat and everything, and, you know, leaving it at that. It
Mhm.
it's nice to have the ability to do so. So
I think that's fair. So the bottom line though is, and kind of the reason I brought it up that way is that for me, it was an easy video to do. I have interest in the topic. Uh,
mhm.
hopefully that came across because I actually, when I saw it and I read it, I gave it some thought and I offered some thoughts and some opinions. But again, I didn't have to spend hours and hours and hours thinking about it and like scripting out a whole. No, it was, for me, it was like I looked at a couple of things, like, okay, there's a couple of thoughts that come to mind about this. Said my piece, put it out there, and then set it up. But the thing is, views were not the only driver to it. But I knew that there would at least be some interest, and I suspected that there would be a little bit of. But touching on kind of what Eric was talking about, though, one of the things that Ed mentioned is that, you know, thanks for bringing it up, or thanks for, you know, mentioning it, or whatever. Because one of the points that I think was valid, and on Victor's video, that's why I say the two are two different topics, but there's still elements of it that do tie together. So on Victor's video, talking about the Victor Wembanyama thing and the amount of people that made videos on it and everything, he did touch on that, and Neo responded to it. So in the comment section here, it says, if people, Neo says, if people don't think it's news, then why do those videos perform well? Which kind of touches on what we were talking about. Some of those news videos do perform very well. So there is some interest and engagement in it. And kind of following up on that, and Neo's point was very similar to Eric's. He says, does a lot of content get repeated? Yes, but I cannot assume a viewer of my channel also watch those, which is kind of playing to what Eric was saying. Yes, it might end up being repetitive because a bunch of different people do it. And he's right that I will watch a lot more videos than the average viewer on it. I'm very tuned in to a lot of the YouTube sports card content. I don't see everything. That's impossible. There's too much stuff. However, I do see a lot. And a lot of times the reason I want to do it is I want to see if there is variation in the coverage. I try to do my own thing as much as possible, but sometimes I'll pick up little things here and there, but most of the time I try to formulate my own thing. On an issue like this, it's honestly clear cut. And the reason why you're going to see a lot of duplication is because it's not like it's reinventing the wheel out here. Like,
Well, and
I don't feel like none of us have a really scandalous take on this whatnot thing.
I want to mention this too. It's not just sports card content that this happens on. You let an eBay update or
Yeah.
or something like that happen
PSA
over in the
changes
reseller
something.
space.
PSA changes something.
Well, I'm talking like even outside of the niche.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I have the reselling channel. I haven't done content over there in months, many months, but I watch, follow a lot of those guys. They will talk like the bigger channels. you're going to hear all of them mentioning the same things. And I bring this up because I found it very funny today. I caught a Ty Wilson video, and it
Oh,
was
okay.
something about why are so many sellers leaving eBay? And I had a
Oh, yeah.
feeling I knew where he was going with it, but he actually dove into talking about sports cards and eBay while using reseller channels and showing a lot of the big resellers that have stepped away from eBay to go full on live selling. And one of them is a big name in the reselling space, and he's actually trying it out and seeing like how it works for him or whatever, and
Mhm.
also owns a marketplace that is very large on District right now, which benefits him because
Mhm.
he has a social media audience that's
Yep.
built in, that they've created a marketplace that he only has to pay payment processing fees on. So the fees are a wash, right? So,
Yeah.
my point is that it was interesting that Ty even jumped over to another niche to pull in to use on the sports car side. But it does, like, it's not just cards. Like
Mhm.
this happens in many, many, many niches. You go Mr. Beast thing, like the whole thing with him when that was going on. How many channels on YouTube was talking about Mr. Beast? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just cards. It happens everywhere.
Yeah, and that's kind of the key thing. And again, it does work because not everybody watches everything. So somebody may follow you, and if you have a take, you talked about people reaching out to you and saying, "Hey, can you give your take on it?" I've gotten
Mhm.
those messages, and sometimes I'm like, you know what, people have covered it pretty well. I'm pretty much aligned with a lot of the conversation already. I don't feel like I need to make
And
another
sometimes
video
they
just
just
to
want
step.
your opinion because
Yeah,
they know
exactly.
your opinion might be much different, a much different
Yeah.
take than the other 42 channels that have done it. So,
Yeah. And I think though the key, kind of touching on that, is that I will usually look into it more if I feel like there is something that I can either add to it or maybe add my own twist, give an example that maybe somebody else wouldn't get. If there's anything that I feel like I can add, and sometimes I succeed and sometimes I don't. But as long as I at least feel like I can add something to it or maybe present it in a different way that makes
well,
somebody think about it a different way, that's enough to justify it for me as long as I'm interested and engaged in the topic.
here's another take on this. So, this discussion has been about why so many people do a video about the same subject,
Kind of
same
thing. Yeah.
topic.
Mhm.
But look at reaction videos.
Yep.
It's kind of a similar thing. You're literally taking a video that somebody did many times about another topic, and then you're giving your reaction to that, which is just your opinion on what that a person's opinion was on that topic. And then somebody else might even react to that. And it's like this flowing
The
tree.
infinite content loop, my man. The infinite content loop. I
But the
talked about
funny
that.
thing is reaction videos,
Yep.
especially if it's a hot button topic, they normally do really well because people want to see the next opinion.
Yep. The
So
irony is thou doth protest too much. Like I pose the question because I think it's a valid question, but I just say like, look, as someone who does who praise the content gods, as someone who praises the content gods, and it's in the corner, praise the content gods. Uh, I'm not going to pretend to be above it. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not playing into it. How meta is it, Brandon, that I have a segment on the podcast where I'm talking about exactly what I'm doing? it's
Right.
it's it's part of the game, but that's okay. I think. Let me pose one more question to you. We'll see if Eric doesn't come back. He doesn't come back. We'll make fun of him and then we'll sign off. But let me ask you one more question real quick. So in the same conversation again, Victor, credit to Victor, Victor the rookie card specialist. You should check out his channel. He's got some great videos. But he brought up some interesting. And by the way, the stuff I'm reading to you is from the comment section. I love reading comment sections because sometimes there's some interesting stuff in there that doesn't make the video. That actually is quite fun. So Tania was just when he was making that point about different people giving different takes. Maybe my audience, maybe some people aren't watching those other videos, but then they see mine and at least they get the information. It disseminates. It goes out there. But Victor makes an interesting kind of counterpoint, counter question kind of thing as well. So he's following up with it. He says, all things are allowed. This is a good quote from him. All things are allowable, but not all things are beneficial. And here's kind of what he's getting at with that. The constant tone of negativity needs to be spun differently. Not good for the hobby overall, not directed at you, but as a whole. So, in terms of that, kind of responding to Neil. So, let me pose the question though. Here's an interesting one. So we've just talked about the repetition thing and everything else. It can feel like a dog pile. It can feel like just, same as those videos stack up. Again, not everybody sees all the videos, but you can at least catch wind of it. You can sense there's a volume of it when a topic really hits, it resonates, right? We had that with the backyard breaks guys, the most recent one. Like there were a ton of videos and podcast episodes about it all over the place. But here's kind of a question. Victor's bringing it up. The constant tone of negativity, which can be a real thing. That is a real thing. But I guess the question is, depending on the topic, every topic's a little different. There's some nuances sometimes. But my question is there a responsibility? Do we have to find the bright side if it's a negative topic? So like if it is the backyard breaks thing, I think for the most part, again, there are commenters that are a little questionable. We can mostly agree that that was bad. Like for the most part, generally speaking, we all agree that yes, not appropriate, very bad, something needs to be done. And if that's the context of the video, it's like, I don't need to find a silver lining out here, Brett. Like it's not really my job to try to find some redeeming quality to try to save the backyard bros. It's not my goal here. My statement, my opinion is that it's really bad. Like, and that WhatNot should do something about it. It is negative because we're talking about a negative thing, but I don't feel like there's any direction that I can go to try to make it sound better. Like I can't. Now that's an extreme example. To be fair, that's an extreme example. Sometimes there's more nuanced topics that maybe you could try to find a silver lining. But if it's not warranted, I can't do it.
I'm going to make this very blunt on my answer. To the proclamation that the negative content is hurting the hobby. Again, if the content isn't like, if it's not for you, if it's not what you want to watch or whatever, it's very simple to not click on it. There is a thumbnail there. There is a title there. There is usually somewhat of a description there. You can pause the video as soon as it comes on and read the comments if you want, just like you did, to get a synopsis of what people are discussing. You don't have to watch it. The other point is when you're talking about sports card content, not everybody is watching the newsy type videos. Some folks only like the collector videos. Some folks only like mail, whatever. There's so many subcategories inside of the one niche, and everybody has their own little, channel schedule that they watch, right? So to say that the negative content is hurting or bad for the hobby, I disagree with. It's bad for the look on the people who are focusing on the newsy type channels if they're constantly being negative. But again, there is this subscribe button that if you are tired of it, you just click and you never watch the channel again. So I feel that is a personal choice. I said that when I stepped away and I wasn't doing hardly any content, when I wasn't hardly buying any cards or anything, one thing that I got sick of was all of the drama and everything that was within the content. And it was in a bad period. It was a couple years ago. So it was after the decline coming out of the pandemic, and everything was rainbows and unicorns there for so long. And then it became all hell was burning down because prices had crashed, and it was just anything negative to get content out there because everything wasn't going up. So there wasn't, these dozens of roses that people could talk about. That got old. And so I just removed myself and stepped away for a little bit, and then came back in and take a breather, take a refresher. But I wouldn't say that it's necessarily negative or hurting the hobby. In fact, I think we all have agreed that the space is probably as big as it's been in quite some time. For what, there's arguments of why that is and what the reasons are. But overall, I would say the hobby's pretty healthy, So, I mean, To your main question though, to get to the point after all that, if it's bad, I I've always said this. I'm not someone. My channel, I want to be honest. One reason that I struggle with content is because I'm unable to bullshit. Like I know that that personality trait helps build a channel and everything else. If something's bad, I'm not going to pretend there was anything good come out of it. It's just not in my personality. It's if it's bad, it's bad. You know, I dealt with some shit in content that I had, that I had to wear it. But I was in that position and I got wool pulled over my eyes, right? That's part of it. Shit happens, right? And you live and learn and you try to just come out of it and learn from it. And that's where I'm at now. But I can't sit here and say, what is there to say good about the situation with Backyard? And then shortly after we get an announcement like this, that the platform seemingly is trying to make changes that almost feel like it would allow that instance to be hidden.
Yeah, more issues. Yeah.
Yeah, like what are you supposed to say good about it?
Mhm.
What I don't see what the positive of the change is there to talk about. Like
Yeah. And
you'd be bullshitting.
I'd agree. So let me kind of touch on this, and I'll kind of we'll wind her down on this one. So one thing, and I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So one thing I'll add to what you're saying is that my opinion, and this has been my kind of ethos for the way I run my channel and the way I do that for this, the way I do the Friday Live and do all the Friday Live, we're gonna have a lot of fun. This one will be 5% more mature, but then I'll do my talking head standalone videos, and you're getting just me. It's just whatever I think about whatever. I think, and I don't think there's anything wrong with what Victor was saying in that comment. I just thought it was an interesting comment because it allowed me to go, okay, I think we can discuss this a little bit. But one thing the thought that I had is that my way that I take the hobby content in general, I watch a lot of it, and there's a lot of it that you could label negative. A lot of times I'm not looking at it as negative or positive. I think for me, what I'm looking for and where I think there can be some separation between the different versions of how somebody takes it. I think as long as it's accurate and fair, then I'm not super worried about whether it falls on the positive or negative side of the scale. The story will dictate that. The actual issue at hand will dictate whether it's positive or negative. But I think as long as you're being accurate and fair and not just making up outlandish things for the sake of making outlandish, if you're doing a performance to really come off negative to get to drive engagement, and you're basically hellfire and brimstone when it's not exactly warranted, or you're making a mountain out of a molehill for no reason, I think that's performative. I think that's BS. I think that's there's your negative content. But I think if the subject is negative, I can play devil's advocate on a lot of things. A lot of times on Friday or on this one, I'll play devil's advocate because I think it makes for a more interesting discussion. Sometimes you don't have that option. Sometimes it's just not there. And
I
sometimes the story doesn't warrant it.
I think some of it too is you have to understand where the content itself and the purpose behind it is coming from. And to explain what I'm saying there are creators that are doing content because they want the revenue. They don't want to put a video up and be content with 100, 200 views. It's paying you, 75 cents for it, right? They don't want to put the time in. So they're sticking to that daily. They're sticking to whatever the topic is. They're sticking to whatever's going to get the views because they want to make the revenue out of it, right? But you have to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand that that's what this channel is there for and their purpose, whereas another channel might want to have more collector hobby, you know, that type content. So and then you have to understand that probably way beyond the majority of the people that's watching the content aren't creating content. So they're watching it to get the news. They may not have Instagram. They may not have Twitter. And again, to go back to what your thing is, do you need to make light of something if it's bad? No. Like you said, as long as you're not exaggerating it, as long as you're not being untruthful, as long as you're not, the keyword allegedly is always, it's always used because most of the most of the content that's put out there on negative subjects is talking about, oh, this report or this release or this post or whatever, and then
Yeah.
giving an opinion on it.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the should you make light of it? Well, no, if it is bad, it's bad, right? Like,
Mhm.
and you're giving your opinion, and whether it's taken as drastically negative or an honest opinion that might be negative because it's a bad situation, then yeah, there's nothing else to it. Like, you can't sit there and dance and put on a skirt and some makeup and try to make it better than what it is if you're giving your honest opinion.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's the key. That's why I use the word performative. I think if you're a person who takes every single thing and makes it negative to elicit a reaction,
And there
I
are
think
channels
that
that do that.
yeah, and I think that is where you could make the argument that it's like, okay, you're just picking the negative angle for the sake of picking the negative angle. But I think if the story warrants it, I might be able to find a silver lining sometimes. There might be like a thing you can say. And if it's there, if it's real and you can actually find something that maybe there's a lesson that can be learned here. Maybe that's your positive angle is there is a lesson here. This is an opportunity for us to learn something here. But if the story is where it is, it might feel like a negative story, but if that's what it is, that's what it is. Like
Yeah.
as long as we're not manufacturing something, it is what it is, and you just state it to the best of your ability because you're going to get stuff wrong. That will 100% happen. People will get stuff wrong, but as long as you're willing to try to give your best effort to give the most accurate version of it and give your opinion based on the most accurate, and if we get one wrong, let us know, and then I'll be happy to make, a correction where I think
And
it's appropriate.
and I think the other thing too to take into consideration with the whole thing, yes, it may feel like that there is an awful lot of negativity at times. And we also say sometimes the hobby's kind of quiet. They're behaving themselves, right?
Yeah.
But I think the reason that whether we want it to be or not, I get frustrated about it. Whether we want it and the negative content sucks, it has to be spoken on, or there's zero chance that anything can ever be fixed. Will it ever be fixed? That's subject to question. But if it's not discussed, if it's not talked about, if there's not voices giving opinions on negative subjects, then there can never be anything corrected. If the whole backyard thing happened and everybody just turned blinders to it and acted like Grant didn't say what he said, then guess what? Nothing would be done. And then it's just accepted. And that is worse for the hobby than talking about it and having some negativity on there. And that's just the truth. Like, it sucks to have to talk about shit topics all the time. But
Yeah.
if they're not talked about, then there'll never be any action taken against them.
Yep. Absolutely. And so we'll kind of finish up on that. Now, one other thing I'll make sure, again, in the spirit of being clear, Victor wasn't talking about the backyard breaks thing in the video that he was talking about. And I did mention it a couple of times, but I'll repeat it just to make sure we're really crystal clear. His discussion was on the Victor Wembanyama thing and people speculating about his health as relate to cards and everything, which, by the way, can be drama farming, oh my God, all the Wembys are going to zero. Oh my God,
Well,
it's the end of days, which I
to
understand. I get
something
that.
that to something that you just said though a couple minutes ago, there could be a lesson to be learned from it.
Yeah.
And the Wembanyama thing, yeah, we don't know. Will this be a long-term effective thing? Will he
Yeah.
come
Wh-
back, be
While I
perfectly
am a
fine?
doctor, I am a hobby doctor, so I cannot prescribe what the next course of action is for Wemby.
The problem is the money that was spent on him without knowing what his career will wind up as.
Sure.
That lesson is never learned.
Yeah.
That's the bad part. He could
Yeah.
be Greg Oden number 2. you know.
And that's always a possibility. Yeah. And look, I'll say it, to be honest, like I said, as someone who watches a lot of the videos that Victor was referring to in his specific conversation there, honestly, if some of them I find entertaining, at least if you're going to do it, at least do it in an entertaining way. Like sometimes it's just fun to listen to. Again, the dramatic thumbnails. It's going to 0 with the down arrows and the whole. Like we know how this game is played. Like don't take it too seriously.
Right,
It is. So to be fair, that is a negative video. Like I agree, it is by definition. But it can be entertaining. Like if somebody's actually pretty good at presenting it in kind of a fun way, like it is what it is. It happens.
I just did one recently with a thumbnail of me pointing at a cloud saying "old man rants about the sports cards," and I did it in jest because y'all all say I'm old, and I didn't rant at all. People know a Bible's rant. That by far was not a rant, but I thought I would have fun with it.
Yeah, sounds good. But yeah, so like I said, more than anything else, I appreciate indirectly. I appreciate Victor indirectly inspiring the last section there because I thought it was a good comment. It was a good back and forth with them, and actually it made for an interesting discussion. So thank you. I know Victor listens to the podcast, so thank you, Victor, indirectly, for giving a good prompt so that I could kind of take that. And again, I gave everybody the clarification that the backyard break we use as an example of negative stories that get covered, but he wasn't referring to that. He was referring to the Wemby thing specifically, which is a lighter topic. In the scale of things, is a much lighter topic. But I do think it's an interesting conversation that, yeah, what is the responsibility of people doing this in terms of repetition? What are you bringing to the table? What is the angle that you take on it, positive or negative? Again, to finalize and repeat what I said, my opinion, I don't really care if something is positive or negative, as long as it's accurate and fair. And I think if you can meet that 2 criteria, then the story's got to go where it's got to go. You give your opinion where it is, and as long as it's legitimately your opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm very comfortable with that. Cool. All right. So I think that's it. Thank you to Eric Sanderson d'Or, his blank visage. I think that last segment, his contributions might have been his best of the entire show.
He must have passed out or went to get chocolate sticks.
Yeah, I think I can only assume that's what's happening. So regardless, he was here for the majority of the episode, so we thank him for his contributions to that. We'll talk about some more collector related things. We had a couple of collector related. Look, you got a lot of 70s hockey on this show. A lot of 70s hockey in the show. A lot of Ovechkin analysis and a nice conversation there at the tail end. Brandon, baubles and ball cards, known associate of 540 flips, occasional ranter, occasional SGC bulk submitter, all these things. Yeah. And Washington Nationals fan, du jour. And pumper of James Woods cards, because I was the underbidder of James Woods card, a $1,700 one, on the recommendations of a baubles and ball cards. I had it $1,690 and I was outbid. I got screwed. It's terrible. Yep. So y'all know. More videos coming up on the channel, live streams on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. These podcasts drop on Tuesdays. We've been very consistent on this. And I did upload one of the previous episodes to the audio feed. I really suck, Brandon, at uploading to the audio feed. We're about 2 weeks behind. I gave the Super Bowl 59, post. That was the episode that should be coming up. The one after that will be later in the week. I'm going to try to get us caught up. but seriously.
Yeah, the audio listeners are probably confused sometimes. Like, what the hell are they doing?
Look, Brandon, I've been very clear on this. Go to the YouTube. Go to the YouTube. That will give you the latest and greatest. If you're the audio listener, I'm sorry. It will always play second fiddle to the YouTube. That is the epicenter where all the stuff is. Go there. You'll get the stuff first. That is usually the best way. But I leave it to you. Listen, it's your life. You live it. But I highly recommend the YouTube version because then you get to see all the 70s hockey we showed. Otherwise, how are you going to see it? I'm just saying. And you won't be able to see the silly card of the week. You can't see it in audio. Come on. Anyway, so that's it for us this time around. Thanks very much. And we'll catch you in the next one.